Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka TheIndianJesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you. And let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party, guys. That is the best part, so make sure you're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an IndianJesus live party ever again. If you'd like to support the channel, head on over to TheIndianJesus.com for your very own official merch. You can get a mug with the revenge, what is that? Mugshot right there. Beautiful, beautiful at TheIndianJesus.com. Guys, we do also have a Discord server that is absolutely free to join. 24/7, we're in there hanging out, having a great time. It is an awesome place to meet new people. And like I said, it's absolutely free to join. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below the video here, hit that join button, and there's a few different tiers here, but it starts at just $2.99 a month, gets you members-only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff, but it also opens up the full Discord server. So we do have the free channel, but there's extra channels there, including our voice channel, where after we are done here on YouTube, we are headed over for an after party, and that means we don't have to worry about any YouTube censors, and you are not stuck behind your keyboard. You're actually on screen with me and everybody else. It is a good time. Definitely come and join us. And joining us now is my co-host Morty, aka the Overlord, and of course every donation comes with a treat for him. All right, hey, shout out to King Nirvana in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Very good to see ya. So this is going to be an interesting one. This one's going to be interesting because shout out again to RattlesnakeTV for holding another debate that we can use. I don't know how I didn't, wasn't too familiar with him before, but now that I am, it's great. So it's a 2-on-2 debate. It's Christianity versus progressivism. So I'm a non-believer and I lean right. So I'm going to have a unique perspective here, and I'm probably going to agree with a lot on both sides and probably disagree with a lot on both sides. So let's dive right in. I skipped their, did I skip their opening thing? I think I skipped their opening things. You get what the Christians are going to say. You get what the progressives are going to say. Let's just dive right into it. As always, guys, if you can end the video, please do let me know.
So, guys, the results of the initial polls is heavily in favor of Christianity. I'm sure that you guys expected to be on a wave turf today. So 92% in favor of Christianity, 2% in favor of progressivism, and 6% undecided. So you guys have an opportunity to change some minds today. And with that, I'm going to mute myself, and Jimbob and Eliezer, you guys can start your cross-examination.
Yeah. And so with that, we also have a running poll. Pick the better one, a based atheist or a woke Christian. It's tough. Pick one.
I want to ask Adam something. That last part kind of piqued my interest. You said progressivism, the ideal is to foster an environment that allows people through their will to be virtuous, right?
I'd never heard of this guy, but I was just talking about doing this stream in the Atheist for Liberty Discord, and somebody was independently talking about Jimbob. So apparently he's got some street cred.
But you also argued that you agree with Evan, your partner, and saying that pluralism is adaptable. Well, how do you have a society with a pluralistic view of what virtues are?
Pluralism just meaning, there could be multiple things that are true at the same time.
And after you answer that, wouldn't you advocate for a society that was more unified and cohesive with what they determined virtues were?
Sure. So just to make sure I'm understanding the question, are you...
So again, these two are the Christians, and these two on the right here are the progressive.
saying or asking, you think that having a concrete set of virtues is mutually exclusive with pluralism?
Shout out to Ty Cobbs. I couldn't pick one. They're horrible. I feel ya. But just try. Welcome to the party. King stays with Andrew Wilson a lot. I think they go to both go to the same church. Well, I'm waiting to hear back from Modern Day Debate, but I am going to DebateCon, and I may be part of a 4v1 debate with Andrew Wilson Sunday morning. So stay tuned for that.
We're asking, you think that having a concrete set of virtues is mutually exclusive with pluralism?
No, I'm asking, the first question is, how do you determine what virtues are? And the second question is, if you were to choose, if you were to choose between, let's say one set of virtues rejected another set, would you prefer, your preferences, would you prefer the more cohesive standard for virtues than the pluralistic one?
Sure.
And so, again, skipping, but just their opening stuff. You know what the progressives are going to say, and they are going to have this my truth and that thing, and the Christians are going to be, the Bible is all that we have, or God's word is all that we have, and that's where they're coming from.
Sure. So I think my understanding of progressivism is sort of that, like, virtues and what is good and what is supposed to happen is something that is emergent as time passes and as these different pluralistic groups interact with each other. So I think in an ideal situation, you would have an amalgamation of different, because there's a lot of common ground in practical terms when it comes to virtues, honesty, respect. Like, you can come up with a hypothetical where someone thinks that, like, being evil and killing people is virtuous, and that maybe gets into, like, very abstract territory. But I think in more practical terms, when you have a pluralist society where people from different backgrounds, different belief systems are coming together, in order to exist in a society harmoniously, they have to be able to find what that lowest common denominator is, what everyone can sort of agree upon in terms of what is the way people
Adam,
ought to live.
sorry to interrupt, but if you say what's virtuous emerges out of a society can emerge, an emergent behavior could be that a dominant force uses force to take over the government, and also exclude, right? Because you would agree that if isn't one way a critical path to harmonious is to excommunicate the ones who don't agree with you? Wouldn't that produce harmony?
There's plenty of examples of what you're saying happening throughout history, which is why I think it depends on.
The question's too broad, because it could apply to certain things. What Jimbob is asking could apply in certain situations, but it's too broad of a question for him to be like yes or no.
It depends on the time span you're talking about. And you have to look at, like, what happened 10 years ago versus 5 years ago. Like, what is the direction in which we are moving? There's going to be peaks and valleys, but my understanding is that, like, as you sort of zoom out and look at which direction are we trending in on average over a very long time horizon as a species, we're arriving at a certain point, which I think is why we have largely abolished things like slavery in the West, and we've moved towards a more egalitarian society.
So the question is, I'll ask it more directly. Is it virtuous then to do anything, any means possible, to produce what you call harmony?
Any means possible? No, because I mean, I think, like, there's a lot of, the way you're phrasing the question sort of, like, implies certain conclusions, but, like,
yeah, so he's basically taking the same position. He's trying to move towards the utilitarian argument. So you're saying, okay, if it's going to be more harmonious, if we just kill all the dumb people, should we just kill all the dumb people? And I mean, I'm not going to speak for them, but personally for me, even though I do have a subjective view of morality, I do believe that as a society we can make it objective by putting personal liberty at the above those parameters. Shout out to Guam Tech. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you, sir.
Like, there's a lot of, the way you're phrasing the question sort of, like, implies certain conclusions, but, like,
yeah. So whenever you hear by any means necessary, that is a trap.
Can you give me an example of, like, what exactly you're asking about?
Well, I asked you what.
Can I also ask a clarifying question?
Yeah, hold on. I asked you what virtue was, and you said, well, a virtue just kind of emerges from a society. I said, if a behavior emerges from a society that has one group of dominant people, force out the ones that they call harmony, like they just cast them out and say, you guys are incompatible. If you said virtue is what emerges to produce harmony, then harmony doesn't actually necessitate.
I mean, as a species, though, I'm not talking about a specific group of people being harmonized or working together only within a specific boundary that's being set. And I think, like, when you talk about what is virtue, as I was saying, I think it's something that is distilled, and we discover more fine ways of defining it as time goes on, because our definition.
Okay, but then define it.
Definitions now are not going to be the same definitions a progressive from 100 years ago would have given, or 100 years before that. And
good thing we're not talking to any progressives from 100 years ago.
I think virtue, in a very broad sense, is a way of conducting yourself and thinking about the world and viewing the world that is conducive to having as harmonious a society as possible, which includes as much of the human species as possible. So I think being exclusion.
That is a fair reason not to share the video. But for everybody else, it is free, it is easy. And again, guys, it does not matter if you think anybody's going to click on the link. Just by you sharing the video, it helps out so very, very much. Thank you.
Is by definition going to be against how we would define that.
Okay, but let me ask you a methodology question. If there's two positions and they're equal in force and numbers inside of a society, not the world, let's say the US, And one makes a claim about where we ought to go, and another makes a claim where we ought to go, and both say they're virtuous. According to your standard, what method are you going to use to determine which one's virtuous?
Whichever ones are like most conducive to the goal which I laid out, which is having a society which has everyone using their freedom in a way that contributes to the harm. Like it's almost like a system that reinforces itself. So you want to have people behaving in a way such that society is cohesive. And if you have someone putting forward a definition of virtue that is antithetical to that, I think that would become evident.
Okay.
And so where I think he's going to go is, okay, well, how do we tell? If we don't have a clear source of what is right and what is a virtue and what is not, then how can we tell? And the only answer to that is to then flip it on the Christians and ask, well, how, what basis do you have to believe that the Bible or, a revelation or anything is any more legitimate than anything else?
Okay, cool. So if I want a Christian society and I want it cohesive, like you said, that's a good thing. I'm not sure how you're going to argue using force to forcefully remove anyone who's not cohesive to my paradigm.
When did I say anything about using force? Like, I haven't even said Christianity and progressivism.
Well, I'm saying I'm using those means, right? Because you just said, I said the hypothetical is there's an equal amount of people who are fighting for their paradigm, right, inside of a country to say, take control over the government and inform their laws based on their paradigm.
And see, again, let's get specific. So talk about the trans issue, talk about feminism, talk about, I don't know, the shoplifting laws. Take it away from this abstract thing where sometimes it fits and sometimes it doesn't, and use an example. He asked you for a specific example. So pick one of the things that you're talking about and then we can discuss it. Ties, I've established my own virtues, which probably don't fit any religious confines. Same here, but I would really question whether or not they do fit in religious confines. And I say that because I think a lot of this is an inherent there is an inherent push towards the right direction that just gets too easily obfuscated by the bullshit in society. Shout out to Michael Wilkinson. Welcome to the party. Said Christians can't even agree on the basics of Christianity. Bingo. Yep, they can't even agree on what God means. Welcome to the party.
To say, take control over the government and inform their laws based on their paradigm. I said, seeking harmony and cohesion, one side could say, yeah, we're seeking cohesion. The way we're going to achieve cohesion is to remove the ones who are incompatible with this cohesiveness. So
that goes against my definition of progressivism, though, which is that you want to have it be as inclusive as possible in terms of the entire human species.
Right. So then you get in, now to criticize the progressives, you want to be inclusive as possible. Why do you want to include people who maybe shouldn't be included? Like our maps, we don't want to include them.
No, but if things are incompatible, now you're not arguing for cohesion. So is it possible that
there's processes to resolve disputes, which I think in and of themselves can be very healthy and useful to hash those things out?
Are there incompatible cultures and sets of virtues?
There's certain facets of certain cultures that would be incompatible with each other. I think using broad strokes to say this culture and this culture are incompatible kind of neglects some of the nuances within each culture.
Okay.
I think it's also important to note that the goal would be to not just exclude exclude those cultures in the creation of a more harmonious society. You would want to attempt to rectify whatever ills or injustices are present within those cultures. So the goal of progressivism wouldn't just be to say this culture has maybe an incompatible way of, for example, treating gay people. Let's remove them from society. You would want to incorporate them with the goal of actually correcting whatever harmful behavior.
Again, bring it down to what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
Or ill that is.
But Evan,
like all the things that they're saying make sense, but you're talking about every issue at once. You're not going to get anywhere talking about every issue at once. If you have the principle there, then you should be able to take any issue and apply that principle.
Use the word justice. It sounds like you're making the same argument as your partner here, but just moving the claim over to injustice. I'm going to ask the same question. If a one set of group of people, let's say in this case Christians, let's say the state,
here we go.
The U.S. is, let's just say even. Let's say there's 50% Christians and there's 50% progressives, and they disagree on what injustice is.
Right.
How are you gonna through the progressive lens which is advocating for pluralism, how are you going to reconcile that kind of difference if fundamentally the Christian disagrees with your definition, Adam, of virtue, and Evan, your definition of injustice?
Yeah. And so I think that is a great question for progressives, because you don't have any basis for what it is that you supposedly believe in. But where the Christians falter is that just because you feel like your basis is ultimate doesn't make that true. And so that's why I would go down on like, okay, fine, maybe you're right. So you know this how? Because you read the Bible? Okay, why should I treat the Bible as any different, kind of thing, and have that discussion? Because from just include everybody. He's absolutely right. There is no way to determine who's allowed and who's not. Shout out to Dixon Cider. Welcome to the party. A shout out to TSN. Let's give the Shuli Network a skull. Always good to see you guys. Yeah, I would love to be up on that panel for a raid show. That would be great. Let them know. Hit me up and I will do it. We got Indie Film. Welcome to the party. So I met plenty of Christian progressives. Oh, there's a lot of them. And I'm probably in the Andrew Wilson camp, saying that, are they really Christians? I know that's no true Scotsman fallacy, but you know what I mean. Shout out to Soundwave Surfer in the building. Welcome. Said everything in moderation. That includes religion. I like that. I like it. Welcome, guys. If you are new here, please do hit that subscribe button if you have not already hit the like button. Again, these things are free, guys. They're free.
With your definition, Adam, of virtue, and Evan, your definition of injustice.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be some acknowledgement of it. It sounds like what you're getting at is just the paradox of intolerance. And I think there's going to be some acknowledgement that in order to create a more tolerant and inclusive society, you have to, again, attempt to rectify through both rigorous debate and empiricism on things that we do have universal agreement on. And that's not to say that those ethics are inherently objective, but we have acknowledgement that there's going to be universal interests on very basic rudimentary things like giving people, for example, just like stable income or living a more stable material life.
See, this is the problem with the I'll say specifically atheist worldview, where you don't supplement your lack of values that you get with religion from other values. Because I used to think the same thing. Well, why don't we just talk about it and debate and do science, and then everybody will win? That's not how it works. And so there has to be something more. Just because that doesn't work does not mean that the Bible or Christianity or any of that stuff is true. But it is the case that if you just hope that everybody does their best, it's not gonna work. So I said I'd attend if IndianJesus were on the panel. It'd be interesting. There we go. And again, I will be at DebateCon, hopefully, maybe debating Andrew Wilson. So keep an eye out for that.
For example, just like stable income or living a more stable material life.
So what if there's a part of the society that's fighting for their system of justice, and they think it's justified for them to be nude and indecent in public? That means masturbating, let's say, more specifically in public. Do you guys take a pluralistic approach and say, no, we have to accommodate the public masturbator? He's just living his life, bro.
He's just living his life, bro. And exactly, that's where the problem is with having this, with being too open with what we're willing to tolerate.
No, like I said earlier, I don't think just anything that is done with the use of freedom is inherently good in and of itself. It depends to what end it's being done, why it's being done, and how it impacts. Like,
would you
I
stop
want to add to what Evan was saying. When there's an overlap between groups that differ, you want to focus on that overlap, use that overlap as the foundation, and then anything that threatens that overlap and threatens the cohesion and the harmoniousness should be viewed as something that you want to try to.
Would you interrupt and intervene on the harmoniousness of a public masturbator?
Yes, if it's because I would say that public masturbation is going to be harmful to, for example, children.
Yeah, I think that for the same reason. So they're asking how, which is fair for the debate, but just for the discussion. I think everybody here, or at least everybody there, would agree that, that it's bad to be wanking up in front of kids. The problem with the progressive side of it is that you don't have anything to ground that in. You don't have anything to ground that in. Ty said, I've found atheists insufferably arrogant and without substance. Those are just the ones that act like militant atheists. Many of us, you have no idea that we're atheists because we don't just really talk about that stuff. I mean, now I have the channel, so obviously I talk about it a lot. But don't forget about the representative heuristic. Representative heuristic. Remember, I was when I was young, I was at the mall with my pops. So at the mall with my pops, and there was I don't know, someone in the military walking by. I was like, Dad, why does the military always have to be in their their military uniform? He was like, what are you talking about? No, they don't. I'm like, yeah, we do. And we go out everywhere and we see them, and they're always dressed up. He's like, no. What you're seeing is when there is someone who's in the military, in their military garb, you notice that. Every time we go to the mall, there's many other people here who are in the military. But because they are not signaling that, you're just not aware of it. And so it seems like, everybody in the military just got to wear their uniform all the time. That's exactly the same thing that you're saying here. I definitely am not going to say that your average atheist is not insufferable. I absolutely agree with that. But it's because of the leftism, not because of the atheism.
Is going to be harmful
To
to, for example, children. Because it may encourage, for example, children to interact sexually with other adults, and that leads to exploitative practices.
Do you believe in teaching kids sexual education that's highly detailed through books?
I mean, it's going to be, the devil's going to be in the details in terms of.
Do you believe in teaching children about masturbation?
Depends on what age. Like I'd say around middle school is when you normally.
So are you okay with a public masturbator? Hold on.
I think the way you teach them is pretty important, right?
I wear that shit all the time. I was getting free stuff everywhere.
Are you okay with a public masturbator then, as long as it was in front of the age that you mentioned?
No, I don't think showing masturbation.
Yeah, in a book, it's teaching.
Well, wait. You just said teach. There was a little bait and switch there. He said, "Would you be okay with the public masturbator, the guy actually doing it?" What Evan over here said was that was talking about it in an educational context.
The public mass. Hold on.
I think the way you teach them is pretty important, right?
Are you okay with a public masturbator then, as long as
that's different than teaching children about masturbation? I'm not saying either is good or bad or better or worse. I'm just saying they're different things.
It's in front of the age that you mentioned.
No, I don't think showing masturbation.
Yeah, in a book, it's teaching.
See how he switched? First, it was a public masturbator, and now it's in a book.
I'd say it's a form of education.
What's the difference between the guy? He just call himself a teacher.
Yo, big shout out to Christopher Hitchens. If you know, you know.
Not all forms of.
What if you just call him a teacher?
Well, it would be. We would have to look at like the form of education, not all forms.
And like we have to acknowledge there are social contexts that affect how people perceive and interact with things. You can't just say that a book that teaches something is the same as a dude on the subway.
Okay, what's wrong with the teacher?
Also, any person who is engaging in public masturbation explicitly with the intention or even just the vulnerability of having children see that, they have something that I would find reprehensible because of the opportunities of exploitation towards children.
And something you're going to see over and over and over is that the Evan and Adam, the progressives, will have decent takes that obviously we shouldn't be whacking out in front of kids. But I think what Jimbob and Eazy hasn't spoken yet, but what Jimbob is going to get to is it's good that you think that, but you could very easily think something else because you don't have a basis for your morality.
Let's take the age. Let's just do this again. Let's take the age you find it totally fine to use books and pictures to teach kids.
Well, I never say pictures.
Well,
I didn't necessarily say pictures. I think that again, this is what I meant when I said the devil is in the details.
I'm getting details. Yeah, I'm giving details.
Okay, then what exactly do these books say, and what exactly
have you seen some of the books in some of the libraries and classes?
That was a jump.
That
was a jump, Jimbob. You got to make the argument there. He's saying, well, I mean, it depends, and you because he's about to bring up genderqueer and the bluest eye and the gay BCs and all that stuff, but you don't know if they hate those books. Again, they said the devil's in the details.
and what exactly.
Have you seen some of the books in some of the libraries and classes that teach explicitly through photographs, through illustration, teach kids how to masturbate, how to perform sodomy, and more, right? Are you okay with teaching kids at a certain age in schools those practices? Yes.
So the question, their answer should be no, but we'll see.
Yes or no under a secular view, under your progressive view. Is that progress?
I would have to look at whatever the specific illustrations are, and
a drawing of a guy jerking off, dude.
Yeah, and I would also need to know exactly what age and what the purpose of this education is. So I think that like there's,
which is still fair to be like, okay, well, it depends on all of these details. So then Jimbob should say, okay, we have a 14-year-old or 17-year-old or whatever. The book is about this. The intent is this. This is the picture, and this is what it says. That's because you're trying to get an answer without fully asking the question. Glomthek said, if it depends, then why should all these books be accepted wholesale or you're considered bigoted? Well, very fair. But again, we've got to take it by the Evan and Adam haven't said those things. So, I mean, again, you preach to the choir here, but we have to wait for them to say that before we put that on them specifically. Because we know there's going to be people who say, if you don't love this, then you're bigoted. But if they're not doing that, then that's not super relevant here.
And I would also need to know exactly what age and what the purpose of this education is. So I think that like there's we need to have some just rudimentary education for children at, for example, maybe the age of 13 or so to just acknowledge what masturbation is. But I'm not sure it's necessary to do any sort of illustration. So in that case, no, I don't think it's necessary.
How about would you teach homosexuality in your progressive utopia?
When you say teach, do you mean like instructing people to behave in this way, or just telling them it exists?
Let me ask you. You remember sex education, right?
See, he's very good. Jimbob is very Destiny-like in the way that he sets up his questions so that you're on your back foot. I mean, it's a good debate tactic, but if we're really trying to understand, now we're just asking, what do the progressives think about these books instead of Christianity versus the ideology of progressivism?
People to behave in this way, or just telling them it exists?
Let me ask you. You remember sex education, right? You're biologically you're learning about sex, right?
It's been a while.
Okay, but would you guys include homosexual activity in the context of teaching sex biologically?
To the extent that there are homosexual people that are present in the people learning, I'd want to teach them how to safely engage in the behaviors they're probably going to engage in. That's different from saying you ought to engage in these behaviors. I think providing people with education on how things work is different than subjecting them to those experiences.
Okay, so you would teach kids of 13 or over, or somewhere in there, how to properly and safely put a penis in a butthole. Is that what you're saying?
If they're going to engage in it regardless, I would rather have them do it in a way that is somewhat safe rather than just willy-nilly based on.
And I mean, if we're talking 14, I don't think you need to be getting that specific with the penis in butthole and all that stuff. But when you bring this up, there is a kid who's stuck their dick in a pie that's too hot and burned their dick off or some shit. It is a normal part of growing up and having an understanding of what you should and shouldn't do. And more importantly, I think the sex education focuses on like consent and stuff like that. I don't think it needs to have pictures of this. You put this in here and you do that and you do that. But talking about the fact that it exists, I do think is the purpose of sexual education.
Okay.
Right. So if, for example, if it just includes the education that, hey, wearing condoms can protect you from things like STDs, and we see a reduction of STDs because of education implementation like that, then yes.
So from a
shout out to Richard Hardy. Welcome to the party. So how do men, quote, properly engage in poking each other in the butt? Well, I mean, lube would be a good start. I don't know much about, I don't know much about this, but I would assume that lube is a good start, that you don't want to rip your asshole. Ty said homosexuality is the antithesis of procreation. So is any sex with a condom, right? Or an IUD or any of those things. So what is a woke Christian? A Christian who is woke. All for the trans stuff and woke, thing we've been
because
talking
of
about for the last 10 years.
education implementation like that, then yes.
So teaching, so from a Christian,
and I think, wait, and I think it's important to
so it's reducing good, reducing disease is good, right?
what you are inferring, right, is that the absence of this education would lead to, for example, less overall engagement of this behavior. But you haven't.
And that's what I was saying. Exactly what I was saying before, Richard. But pretty much. But exactly, this is the same argument as anything with prohibition, and the notion that if we don't teach it, it's not going to happen is not true. Now, the degree of saying, look, this is good, this is should be celebrated is a whole different story. But to act like if kids don't hear about being gay, then they won't be gay is just stupid. Shout out to Dylan Soup. Welcome to the party. I don't need to know your preferences unless you're sitting in my lap. Fair enough.
Actually demonstrated that. And generally, we do see that societies with comprehensive sex education and economic, for example, access to effective contraception are going to have less STDs.
So do you think it's...
So I have the same, Richard said, do you think homosexuals should be taught in sex ed classes in school? And so it depends on what you mean by taught. Should children be taught that sometimes people of the same gender like to be together? Yes. Do I think we should be showing images and videos and stuff? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It's a good thing to reduce sexually transmitted diseases, though?
Generally, yeah, I think it's something that most people want to avoid, and as such, we should.
That's another big part of doing things properly is not getting diseases.
Should we teach the best way to avoid it in school?
Yeah, absolutely.
So abstinence, we should teach abstinence in high school.
We should teach abstinence, but we should also.
Is that a progressive virtue?
We have studies on the fact that the areas that they teach abstinence have higher rates of STDs and higher rates of teen pregnancy. So teaching abstinence does not work. In the same way, prohibition did not work.
Abstinence, we should teach abstinence in high school.
We should teach abstinence, but we should also.
Is that a progressive virtue or is that a Christian virtue?
Well, it is.
It's the freedom to choose which one you want to engage in.
That's a false dichotomy. Because like treating people nice is a Christian value, but it's also a progressive value. Does it manifest in the exact same way? No, but not mutually exclusive.
Well, it is.
It's the freedom to choose which one you want to engage in.
Is abstinence? A simple question.
Agree to disagree, time.
Abstinence, not abstinence only, but you understand that. And I was just in school not too long ago, but they still told you that abstinence is the best and most effective way of preventing STDs, and that's of course the case. That's of course true, but you don't let that be the only form of education. You also provide effective access to contraception and ensure that if for example, teenagers, which they do engage in sex, are going to engage in sex with each other, that they're informed on how to do it safely. They're informed about consent in order to prevent and decrease overall harm, which is going to be exploitation. And I think one thing that...
Come on, Jimbob, you are making me agree too much with these damn progressives.
We may be missing is Adam and I aren't libertarians. We're progressives. We can acknowledge that.
I said agree to disagree with Ty. That it definitely is inherent. It can be. It doesn't have to be. But if we took away every instance of somebody who was abused as a kid and then wanted to do that, there would still be gay people.
Because someone is quote unquote of the age or quote unquote engaging in a free behavior, that it's not necessarily going to be conducive to the benefit of themselves or those around them. So we would still advocate, again, pushing a society to engage in behavior.
Okay, I
want to hear from Eazy.
Let me ask you, Evan and Adam, and maybe Eazy, you can jump in on this. Sorry to hog it, but let's say there was a phenomenon where people started using their genitals on objects like trees and things like that. Now, if that emerged, Adam, because what's emergent is virtuous. If that emerged as a phenomenon, would you then
I didn't say what's emergent is inherently virtuous. It points us in a direction. You have to see what direction we're moving in on average. But continue your question.
Okay, so the question,
bro, are you thinking that there was no gay people before social media? There was no gay people before the internet, before TV. Okay, dude.
Is if people started using their sexual organs on objects and trees and things like this, would you then demand to add that to sexual education? How to safely?
Are you asking if
So that's a good question. Definitely not. And I think that we can make a clear distinction between two consenting adults and things like bestiality.
like what, like 50% of society just randomly one day is like, we're going to start fucking trees, or
just even 6% of the school?
if it's like statistically significant, you'd probably want to address it in some way. And first of all, tell people this is probably extremely dangerous and not safe. It's, if other people are seeing it, it's probably very weird to them and psychologically scarring. And there's
But what
probably
if it made them happy? What if it made them happy? Wouldn't it be virtuous to
if someone like
along?
in the privacy of their own home has like a little tree or a plant or something? I would say that's amoral. Like I personally would find it weird on like a emotional level, obviously. But
so
and
what
just
you find
one quick thing, I don't want to cut you off. Just really quick one to interject this. I understand that we have a 2.5 hours, 3 hours here, and these are interesting conversations, and I'm happy to engage in them. But I want to make sure we're not spending the next 2 hours like, what about this weird sexual scenario? What would happen here? Like,
well, there's a lot of sexual.
Bro, you got to go look up the Greeks. You got to go look up the Greeks. They were not hiding the fact that they were gay at all. And I promise you, they didn't have social media. Shout out to Mama Black Sheep. Welcome to the party. Said, I don't think sex ed is about teaching kids how to have sex. Well, I mean, it's become that in some places, but I absolutely agree. That's not what it should be. It's not teaching them how to do it. It's teaching them about what it is to have them well informed. Welcome to the party. I said I heard a tree hugging, but not tree fucking. There you go.
We're not spending the next 2 hours like, what about this weird sexual scenario? What would happen here? Like,
well, there's a lot of
there are more
sexual scenarios
practical
going on, dude.
There's a lot of bizarre.
Right, but there are a lot of sexual situations. But what does that have to do with specifically Christianity versus progressivism? And this is now that you said he's of the Andrew Wilson ilk, you could definitely see it. He's very on the offense of like, okay, we're going to talk about what I want to talk about because I can ask these questions and make you on your back foot. When really I have not verified anything that I've said at all. Shout out to Stan, the one and only. Welcome. Said Greeks weren't that gay. That's a misconception due to some improperly read pottery. Okay, so they weren't that gay, but they were a little gay. Because Richard was asking if you took away their media and social media icons that promote homosexuality, would there still, would there still be gay people? And of course, there were. The dryads? I'm not sure what that means.
Other facets of society.
I understand, but
yeah, right. That's the tactic, and it's a good tactic, but it's not good for people trying to understand what you actually believe.
But I'm talking about decency, and I want to know how the progressive model will manage.
What do you define
decency?
I'm curious as what you define as decency and how that's explicitly entailed from the Christian worldview and how it's defined.
Indecency?
So now, there you go. Now we're pointing. Okay, like you're asking about all of this stuff, and again, we did skip over the opening statements. But again, Christians believe in Christianity. Progressives are leftists.
Or decency.
Decency.
Either.
Yeah. Why is decency entailed from Christianity, and how is it defined by Christianity?
Well, decency would probably be an entailment of modesty and humility. So, for instance, if you looked at someone and they had their ass out in public, like super thong, jiggling around in a public scenario, under your view, they're not doing anything. They're just living their life. They're dancing.
Just boys being boys.
Look away would be the libertarian and the progressive remedy to that. There would be no problem with it ultimately. So,
in public or in private? In private, yeah, if you want to wear a thong, go for it. But if you're in public, put your ass cheeks away.
Our view, we would say that's indecent, because it's not humble. You're not, especially a woman, you're not covered up. You're like, there's a threshold at which you're going to be using your buttocks for a very specific reason, which is sexual, right? And so if you agree that going outside in public and shaking your ass around like you're on all fours and stuff, that's not public masturbation according to you, right? So you wouldn't really police that in a progressive society, right? Under a Christian view, that kind of indecency, right, would be examined, and we go, oh, under our view, we would actually justify the use of force to remove indecency. But you guys
So are you
don't really
talking
have
about someone wearing a thong and walking into an elementary school, or like someone at the beach wearing a bikini? Like, I feel like the devil is really in the details here, and there are going to be like certain gray areas you have to iron out through some kind of consensus building and some kind of like what exactly is the threshold of what is appropriate clothing and what isn't. I don't think these are very strictly, cleanly defined concepts.
Exactly. As I've been saying, I think Jimbob knows that. I think that's his tactic, to be as broad as he can while still being specific enough that we're still on topic, but making the other person say, well, I don't know what you mean by that. What do you mean?
Okay, but let's say the threshold isn't as exhaustive as you'd like, right? Let's just say but the intent was to find the threshold, even if it wasn't the highest resolution threshold, right? Because even under your view, there would be those thresholds, right? It would be like, we're almost there. What I'm saying is that
Threshold meaning this is too much indecency.
there would actually be an intended pursuit of that threshold. I'm saying under your view, there's no reason to pursue policing indecency at all, as long as what is it, Evan and Adam? As long as it's not harming someone, right?
Generally,
as long as it's not harming the broader social project, social cohesion. Yeah, sure. So like that's why I would say if someone's wearing that in a school, then I have a lot more questions than if someone's wearing a bikini on Miami Beach.
Right. So now you've declared that there are certain places where certain things are decent and certain places they're
situational,
indecent, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
Richard, because I need to live my truth. Okay, I gotta live. It's my truth. I gotta live my truth, and I can't be decent and live my truth.
Or progressive view, I'm not sure. It seems a bit more clear for a Christian paradigm to be able to kind of traverse those things. And I'm not sure it's clear at all from your paradigm how you're going to navigate what's indecent and when.
So this is the time you'll be, okay, again, flip it back on him. Okay, what is that paradigm that is so easily articulated? That's how you got to get into it, because he's using this vague idea of Christianity and the Bible and decency, which is fine, but I don't know. I have no idea what this guy believes. I have no idea what either of them believe.
Yeah.
Being that your ultimate priority under your paradigm for both of you is let people do what they want, right? Let them pursue their own happiness, essentially.
I wouldn't say that that's the ultimate. I would say that that's one a feature of it, but I'd say that the ultimate, I guess, core value of the paradigm would be to rectify injustices. So I'd say progressivism broadly doesn't seek necessarily to advocate new ways in which humanity explore, I guess, random sexual virtues, but rather evaluating ways in which society is already feeling real ramifications from real social phenomenons, from real problems that actually exist, and attempting with both reason and empiricism, how do we actually rectify those?
So Richard said, clearly a woman shouldn't be at the grocery store with her naughty parts hanging out. Jimbob is saying that the other folks say it's okay when it clearly isn't. And that is what we call projection. You have to establish that first. Just because there are progressives who think that and are very proud of it doesn't mean that they do. So you have to establish that. And so he specifically said, well, if you're on a beach, it's very different than being in a school. And so, you know, that would be a good question for Jimbob to ask. What about a grocery store? I have a feeling that both of them say, well, no, it's the same, not as bad as a school, but the same issue arises because there is the possibility of children there. So we can't project onto these people just because they belong to a group that we don't. Ty said, too many immature parents have abdicated responsibilities for the welfare of their offspring to the public education system. And I absolutely agree with that. The issue is, since that already is the case, not teaching those kids isn't going to make the parents more responsible. It's just going to have the parents be equally irresponsible and the children just more ignorant. So I don't know.
Also have a real quick question for you, Jimbob, just to interject real quick. So and correct me if I'm wrong.
What excuse did he make? He specifically said at a beach, it's different than in a classroom. What is excusing about that? How is that a straw man? They're specifically asking about wearing a thong in public. And he said it's different in different scenarios. Yeah, I mean, you can, again, I'm not arguing that progressives don't think that, but you can't project that onto these two unless they say it. And so if he wants to say that, then ask them, what about a grocery store? And then when they say yes, there you go. but you can't assume.
Rectify those.
I also have a real quick question for you, Jimbob, just to interject real quick. So like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems
Again, what's the straw man? They're asking about wearing. They're asking about wearing thongs in public. What part of that is not the argument? I'm not projecting anything. I'm observing what's happening.
seems like one thing that you're pointing.
I'm just like with you. You are saying these things that these guys didn't say. That is projection. That is what that is. You again, if you want to prove me wrong and show me what the straw man is, then 1 for 1. But he is absolutely projecting what they think before they've said it.
Real quick question for you, Jimbob, just to interject real quick. So like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like one thing that you're pointing out is that with Christianity, a lot of these thresholds are maybe more clearly defined and more clearly designated than in a progressive society. And I would ask you, if there was some other religion that had more clearly defined, more strict requirements or definitions of what counts as decency, would that make it on those grounds better than Christianity? I'm genuinely curious.
That's a great question. And that's kind of, what I am looking to present to the world as my life's work, that there is a secular system that actually has what we would call Christian values, so that we have a society that is, more like the 90s than the 2010s. But you don't have to believe in this thing that you don't believe in. I think that, and so that's pretty much exactly what he's asking about. Ty said, has no place in public education. Human sexuality, unless you're taking it in college. And again, a lot of people said that, and then a lot of teens got pregnant and STDs. So is it more important that your values are reflected, or is it more important that the children are best taken care of? Because it sounds like you care more about being right than helping the children.
If what counts as decency, would that make it on those grounds better than Christianity? I'm genuinely curious.
No, I wouldn't say, because of the
specificity of the threshold.
Yeah. Like that could be done under like Islam, right? We would say, they're pretty clear on the things. Then it would probably expand, from my view, it would expand to, we would get into epistemology and metaethics and deeper things that wouldn't be in this debate. But yeah, Adam, if that came up, if you guys were Muslims right now, we would debate something much larger than merely, is there any normative authority? That's kind of what I'm pointing to in general, is that.
That was a nice bait and switch, because he gave you the hypothetical that we already have the ideology that is better than Christianity, or is closer to that than Christianity. So, bait and switch there again.
If you guys were Muslims right now, we would debate something much larger than merely, is there any normative authority? That's kind of what I'm pointing to in general, is that I actually agree, Adam, more so with your account of what progressivism is, that it's what's progress, what's justice. You're saying, in your experience, Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's still kind of ambiguous and it's hard.
I mean, I don't have any kids. I was a kid. I had friends that were kids. I don't know what else you want from me.
To pin down. And I'm saying, well, from a Christian view, even if you disagreed with a Christian paradigm and you believed all of the sort of bumper stickers about it, right? You would have to agree that it's at least has cohesion. I'm not.
So wait, Richard, what was the straw man?
Not saying it's better because it has. I might actually be saying it's if it can be applied, is it better under your view, Adam? Because I'm arguing under your view. Me and Eazy are granting the secular view here, or if you let me use that term, progressive.
Eazy hasn't said anything yet.
The view, we're granting that, and we're saying, okay, well, isn't it true under your view that Christianity is still more cohesive, that it's clearer in its normative position and how to.
So is that better? Cohesion is necessary.
Absolutely. And if we're talking about Christianity and progressivism, what is Christianity is much more clear than what is progressivism.
Theory, but not sufficient, because you can have cohesion, but also exclusion, I think, is going to be a much bigger issue with Christianity that does not necessarily exist to the same extent with progressivism. I would admit fully, I think if
that's so. Richard said Adam wants to point to beach and bikinis rather than addressing the societal problem, because the beach is easier for Adam to defend. Wrong. So what Jimbob was bringing up was the notion of wearing a thong in public. There is no blanket answer, according to them, if the yes or no, good or bad. It depends on the situation. And so that's why he gave two different situations. If we're talking about in a public in a school, then absolutely not. But if you're at a beach, then it's very different. You're still in public. That's not what a straw man is. Just because he makes a point that you don't like doesn't mean it's a straw man. Ty said, I don't have children because I learned abstinence and my own limitations. I raised my nieces and was an au pair for 2 decades. It starts at home. Again, not disagreeing with you, but many homes don't do that. So the question is, do we want the homes to not do that and the children to still have an opportunity to understand? Or do we want the parents to not do that? And that's it. Those are your options. Those are your options. Richard said, atheists are always dead set on digging in hard when it comes to the subject projection. I've now asked you 7 times what the straw man was, and you just keep bringing up the argument, which is not a straw man. Sounds like you're the one digging in, my guy.
With Christianity that does not necessarily exist to the same extent with progressivism. I would admit fully, and I think if we're having a good faith discussion, that yes, when it comes to progressivism, there is probably more ambiguity and more of like learning as you go. But I think that is a
learning as you go. I would have an issue with that because that implies that there is a correct version of progressivism, and you just have to read more and be better educated, and then you'll have the best version of progressivism. And it's too messy. It's too messy because each issue lives in a vacuum, and so there's no underlying principles. And again, it's just they have this idea of tolerance, and maybe that is their underlying principle, but they apply it very differently.
There is probably more ambiguity and more of like learning as you go. But I think that is a sign.
So to agree with a progressive is digging in. Think about that. Think about what the fuck you just said. If you agree with somebody who doesn't already agree with you, then you're digging in. What? That would be called the opposite of digging in, because I'm not a progressive, but the progressives are saying a right thing, so I'm agreeing with that. It's just a matter of thinking for yourself instead of trying to win one for the team. King of said, I just don't see them digging. Contest what's actually being said. If you chill out, I bet you can do it too. Agreed. Ty said, just let the chips fall where they may and leave society to care for the syphilistic single mothers. And again, fair position, but I don't hold that position. Just said, clearly the progressives on the side of degeneracy in this argument, are they not? Not that I've heard. What did they say that would make you say that? You're projecting what other progressives think onto these two gentlemen. They have not said anything along the lines of that.
And
I'm not saying they don't think that. I'm just saying they haven't said it. I don't know them any better than you do, which is why I'm not projecting.
More ambiguity and more of like learning as you go. But I think that is a sign of humility and honesty with how these things work. And I think, like, sure, it's true that with a preordained system of values and ethics with Christianity that are very hyper specifically defined.
Okay, you're right. I don't. Did you watch this already? You're not going to answer that question, just like you didn't answer what the straw man was.
Or anything else. You might have more concrete parameters to judge it based on.
See, and can I just slow down there and show how very easily you bring up a good point? Oh yes, you maybe you watched this already. And what did I say? Well, no. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, no, that would just be assuming. That would just be assuming, which also isn't good, but not projection.
Defined or Islam or anything else, you might have more concrete parameters to judge it based on, but I think the concreteness is not sufficient to say this is a better system than something that's maybe a little more ambiguous and you have to figure it out over time.
But what you would at least say, yeah, sorry, one more question, Easy, sorry. Would you at least concede that cohesion would actually be a necessary precondition if it were to be better?
Sure.
Okay, so
cohesion would be a precondition.
Would actually be a necessary precondition. You would at least concede that cohesion would actually be a necessary precondition if it were to be better.
Sure.
Okay.
Shout out to Boo Baboon. Welcome to the party. Said, howdy-o, Mr. Jesus. Welcome. Very good to see ya.
And would actually be a necessary precondition if it were to be better.
Sure.
Okay. So you would say at least give us a point that we're ahead of you on the preconditions for what might be better.
And Evan said earlier, Christianity and progressivism are not mutually exclusive. I'm sure there's many aspects of Western understandings of morality and society that are probably somewhat influenced by the Christian tradition. And
okay, that was great. So look at this super chat that somebody just said. As long as it doesn't break harmony and cohesion. No, not that kind of harmony and cohesion. That's the problem with their positions, is that harmony and cohesion, they manifest differently for each issue that they talk about. That's where the Christians should be going, is taking a principle that they're espousing and then bring it to a different issue and showing how they have a different position and a different principle, and the principle doesn't follow through.
Things of morality and society that are probably somewhat influenced by the Christian tradition, and I don't have an issue with that. The issue I have with a Christian society,
shit, me neither. No issue saying it's a Christian country based on Christian values, that I have Christian values. No issue with that. I just don't believe in the truth claims
by the Christian tradition, and I don't have an issue with that. The issue I have with a Christian society, as I think you're defining it, is that it is by definition going to exclude certain types of people, and I think lead to certain negative externalities that could be remedied with, yes, a more ambiguous, more iterative system, which I think is progressivism.
Easy, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I guess, to make it a little bit more simple too. And I do want to clarify so we can actually start progressing more too. But when you guys say better,
see what he did there. So we can start progressing.
Like progressivism is better than Christianity. Is it better in terms of like a cultural sense? Like if today society comes to an agreement that we have a specific set of cohesion that we're going to strive for, and we have specific goals, this could also change 100 years from now. Is that kind of the position you guys are taking to understand?
I think that the changes are happening in a certain direction. So like there's going to be evolution and things that change over time, but I don't think that's an arbitrary change. I think it's like, if you want to get into like maybe evolutionary biology, that there is probably some direction this is moving towards. I think things like religion and all these different things we used to regulate how people ought to behave, how they ought to perceive the world, are probably going to be guided by some set of like natural selection or some kind of, like, as I was saying, an iterative process. So I'm not saying there's going to be things that we're not going to miss. There's probably going to be a lot of problems that the system itself allows you, though, to iron out those problems, identify them, and change them because of its adaptability. Whereas I think in Christianity, there isn't that self-correcting mechanism that would allow you to overcome those kinds of hurdles.
He's absolutely correct. However, the problem is the same way where we can't just expect that, oh, everybody just be nice and do what's best. You can't just expect people to do that. The same exact thing that he's saying, the ability to update the rules and norms and all that stuff lies in progressivism, sure, but does it manifest that way? No, not at all. You have to conform, and it's been turned into its own dogmatic religion, and so without it now has the bad parts of a religion without any of the good parts.
Christianity, there isn't that self-correcting mechanism that would allow you to overcome those kinds of hurdles, and you're kind of like set in stone.
Mm-hmm. So, but what is progressivism itself? What is it going to lead to? Because I know you guys said that freedom is going to derive from
socialism,
society, or whatever virtues we come up with. But what exactly are we going towards? Like if we say, okay, we're going to implement progressive values and we're all going to live according to this, what exactly is it going to lead to? What's the end result?
Trying to eliminate as many social, cultural, economic, and political obstacles as possible that would preclude someone from being able to freely decide to live a virtuous life such that they are contributing to the harmoniousness of society.
So that's a good answer. But if I'm one of the Christians now, I'm going to be like, okay, how's that going? How's that going? Not so well.
Right. I think the goal is fundamentally going to be creating a society that enables people to pursue both the more rudimentary, universal like goods in society, such as like the material, and then their deeper, more psychological purposes like creativity and connecting with others. And that's going to be, obviously that's going to be there's going to be variety across individuals and communities, but we do have, for example, outcomes to look at with specific things that we would mark as being progressive. So, for example, having a strong welfare system, we do have nations to look at that when those sorts of policies are implemented, we can actually take a look at what exactly those outcomes are relative to, for example, Christian societies, which doesn't actually have any clear outlined economic policy.
Well, so this is where now we're getting in, because they're on the side of Christianity, not republicanism or conservatism or anything like that. But this is where the opportunity to now switch it to more right wing politics. And the fact is that the ways that the progressives talk about society and the way that they act in society is very different. So dive into that. Like, okay, again, how has the economy been over the past 4 years?
Actually take a look at societies, which doesn't actually have any clear outlined economic policy.
Well, but even in that specific example, like the welfare system, what outcome are you looking for? Is it family? Is it income? Is it
reduction in poverty? And yeah, I would say that.
How's that going?
That would be the number one thing with welfare, and then also economic mobility.
What if people?
How's that going?
And because economic mobility and poverty are obstacles to pursuing those virtues.
What if you found that a lot of people who are in poverty are happy? Would you infringe on them and give them money, or
forced to accept?
Interesting. I'm not sure if this is it's a good question or a bad question. If people were happy in poverty, I don't feel like that's a realistic part of the human condition. Like, okay, theoretically, yeah, if somebody was like, I want to be poor, don't give me any money, then yeah, I guess, okay, don't give them money. But that's not how humans operate typically. At least not
would you
mentally fit ones.
on them and give them money, or
forced to accept anything? I mean.
Well, then,
right.
then you'd have to say, okay, but if it's the case that in many countries, the poorest people actually, through their adoption, I should say, of religion, even if it wasn't Christianity, if they're happy, right, with that, even though they're poor, what would your prescription for that be? So
are you implying that if they're poor and they found Jesus and then you gave them money, that they would be like, oh, fuck Jesus? I don't see the connection between money and faith. They're happy, right, with that, even though they're poor. What would your prescription for that be?
Are they happy as a function of their poverty, or are they happy in despite of their poverty? Because I think that's the deeper question. And if you're saying they're happy as a function of their poverty, theoretically, yes. If people are happy because they're poor, then I guess it would make sense.
Well, you're saying
that's not obviously the case.
Yeah, but then why?
Told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? Because I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago.
Why solve poverty then, from your view, then, if it's not to increase happiness?
What? Because it does increase happiness. People not being able to afford things causes unhappiness. So now this is the Andrew Wills. You're going so far out of so far off the rails to try to trap him. Why aren't you talking about how good Christianity is?
Why solve poverty then, from your view, then, if it's not to increase happiness? What is it to do?
I think when you remove those kinds of obstacles, it opens up like the aperture of what people can pursue and how they choose to live life. And the more, like I was saying, political, social, cultural obstacles are there, the more that aperture is narrowed in terms of what path they can go down. So I would just argue that in the absence of poverty, people probably have the ability and the freedom to make better decisions. And sure, you can argue when you widen that aperture, you also increase like the badness or like the wrongness of decisions they can make as well, which is why I would say it's not just that freedom and opening up the aperture in and of itself is good, but you want to give people as much freedom as possible within certain bounds, and then have incentive structures in place such that they are able to pursue what we would call good ends or virtuous ends.
And again, I agree with that, but is that what progressives are actually doing? Especially the progressive politicians. Is that what they're actually doing? And no. So great theory, but if it's not actually happening, then it's worth nothing.
And we don't have to speak in theoretics. We know empirically that at the very least, there's a certain threshold of income and economic stability that people need, or at the very least, their satisfaction with life grows.
Yeah, don't they say like up to $75K a year? Like more money will make you happier because it allows you to live more easily. But once you get up, once you're able to live and you have the money, then there's a very much declining effect on how much money brings happiness.
people need, or at the very least, their satisfaction with life grows to up until that point.
So does progressivism incentivize family and procreation?
If that enables people to live a more fulfilling life, then
no, that's what it drives. Just living a fulfilling life, period. So yeah, if you want to have children and be a good person and add to society, well, great, good for you. But if you don't, if you want to be a drug addict and just shoot up in front of schools and stuff, well, your happiness is your happiness. So sure, they're not against procreation, but they don't put that as a virtue or a value. Shout out to KFT, calls the frosted tips in the building. Welcome to the party. Said progressive equals socialist. That's what I said. The guy was asking what is progressive supposed to lead to? Capitalism rules. Hell yes, it does. And Morty says hi. Welcome to the party, sir. Very much appreciated. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Thank you so very much. That's 1 out of 10, guys. Don't forget to check out that swole goal. Don't forget to check at the top of the chat. That's 1 out of 10. 9 more, and I'm on the floor.
If that enables people to live a more fulfilling life, then sure.
Okay.
It sounds like a lot of your guys is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like the ultimate goal is just giving people more options. So it's not necessarily like value family, value a specific structure of the economy. It's more or less just giving people the option to decide what they want to do.
Right. And as Adam said specifically that, well, it's more options. It might be more bad, but it might be more good as well. And so if that's the options are there, but people are picking the worst options, then having the options can't be a virtue.
The big structure of the economy. It's more or less just giving people the option to decide what they want to do.
And then ideally structuring things in such a way that they would make what I would think there is probably a correct option to pick, or a set of correct options they can pick. So like that's why I was saying earlier, I don't want to conflate progressivism with like hedonism or consumerism. I think there's a lot of negative things that we probably all four of us can agree on. And I would not say that like just because someone freely decides to do something that it makes it inherently virtuous or good. Maybe it can be amoral and not really have moral value either which way. But I would say that like when we talk about limiting poverty, people, when they don't have that kind of anxiety weighing them down and narrowing the way they view the world, they can probably engage in like a lot more virtuous behavior when they're free to do that.
Well, Adam, what in addition to just pure consumerism and materialism does progressive have offer that Christianity doesn't? Because Christian view, we accept that there are circumstances of the world and scarcity, and it's not like we take a position against, let's say, making money or using your talents and skills. It's just that Christianity offers human beings a distinction between the material world and the spiritual practice. And ultimately,
this is where I would get into the actual truth claims.
I really don't see from a progressive view what else you guys are offering other than pure consumerism, materialism, and
our view doesn't preclude or neglect what you're laying out. You can totally live under that framework within a progressive society. We're just
exactly the same thing that I'm always talking about, that this secular moral structure. It doesn't mean, it's not a dichotomy. It's not either you live a secular life or you it's not as if you live in a either secular society or you have Christians in your society. We should be able to have a society that if you want to be a Christian, you can go balls to the wall, and if you're not, then you don't.
Saying that when you have the,
even if most of our laws and rules and norms are based on the Christian values, that is still part of it.
What you're laying out, you can totally live under that framework within a progressive society. We're just saying that when you have the adaptability of a progressive society, there are built-in self-corrective mechanisms that allow you to maybe still have that kind of like driving force of people moving towards, like, I want people to have families and reproduce and all this stuff. That's all great. But like, I want people to choose to do that. And if someone is
See, it's about the choice. It's not about the option, as Eazy said. It's about the most options. And again, that sounds good on paper, assuming that most people are going to choose the more positive options, but that's not how it plays out.
For example, gay, I don't think it's wrong for them to not have children. I think it'd be great if they got married and had a family as a gay couple. That'd be awesome. But like, I just don't think that these parameters can be as strictly and sort of like harshly defined as I think Christianity would do.
And I don't think it's fair to associate economic stability with consumerism or
So you did or you didn't watch it already?
hedonism in
Why bother asking questions if you're not going to answer mine?
economic sense. I think that part of what economic stability offers is time of leisure, and that includes time for expressing creativity, working on something that isn't necessarily economically productive, or time.
When socialism comes in, I'm going to do pottery on my farm. What do you mean your farm?
Spending time with loved ones, which both we know again from empiricism increase satisfaction.
Okay, but what is let's say you mentioned homosexuality and two dudes renting the womb of a woman to have a kid. How would that, what does that offer your utility based society?
I mean, I'd want them to be good parents, obviously. I mean, it depends, again, devil's in the details, a lot of these things, as long as they're being good parents that are instilling.
Well, I mean, instead of going down for the same exact reason that you, as a Christian, want straight people to procreate. In the progressive worldview, they are the same thing. A good family is a good family. That's what she should be saying. So whatever it is that you think is good about a Christian couple procreating, that's what the progressives think about a gay couple that has kids.
Obviously. I mean, it depends, again, devil's in the details, a lot of these things, as long as they're being good parents that are instilling their children with the same values we've been talking about this whole time. I think that'd be a good thing. I don't think that inherently a couple being heterosexual is the defining factor that makes it good or bad.
I'm just wondering what it offers.
It offers the fulfillment of being a parent, if that's something that somebody wants to have, despite being, homosexual in their sexuality.
See, if they understood the argument they were in, then again, they wouldn't talk about the homosexuals having happiness, because the Christians don't care about that. At least not more than them having children. And so it has to go back to the societal value of having a nuclear family, teaching kids to, be respectful adults and contributing members of society, and so on and so forth. That's the answer.
Somebody wants to have, despite being, homosexual in their sexuality. It offers them that fulfillment.
So fulfillment. So, I mean, if it offered them fulfillment for 5 men to be in a house and they call themselves whatever you would call it, was that a quintuple? And they bought some kids, you'd be totally fine with 5 gay dudes in a house,
I think
raising one kid, right? What's that? Say it again, Adam.
I think pentuple.
Pentuple. Yeah, I don't know this. But would you guys advocate for that if they said, "Listen, progressive Evan and Adam, I'm so glad."
I think they're going to say no, because they don't seem that far left, and so I think I'm just guessing here, but I think they're going to say that there's something about being in that type of relationship that would change it from just a 2-person couple. I'm hoping. I've been agreeing with them a lot. So if they're like, yeah, let the gangbangers have kids, then
but would you guys advocate for that if they said, "Listen, progressive Evan and Adam, I'm so glad you guys are our representatives. Can you make it so 5 dudes can marry each other and raise one kid?" If they thought that was going to give them happiness, you'd advocate for it, right?
Well,
am I mistaken? Actually, I'm gonna say, yeah, okay, never mind, my bad.
If they thought that was gonna give them happiness, you'd advocate for it, right?
Well, the outcomes also depend on the actual child's, like whether or not the actual child is going to be, living a fulfilled life. But I don't.
So here you've gone down a road where you're opening the door for you to say it's okay that 5 dudes are living in a house together and they have a child. That's weird. That's not the same thing as 2 random gay dudes who are not weird. That doesn't mean that 2 gay dudes can't be weird, but the lifestyle is completely different than the 2 gay dudes just living as a normal couple.
Like whether or not the actual child is going to be, living a fulfilled life. But I don't have any sort of empiricism to prove that one way or the other, and neither do you. So I don't necessarily see that, and I don't actually see how that's necessarily
source. Do you have a source that says if 5 guys bang each other, they're not going to be good parents? No, bro, I don't have a study that says that.
Entailed as being wrong from the Christian worldview either.
And if we
Or-
find out at some
fellas,
point that
and
like
we have
too
to-
many
Or
parents,
the
Just
why
quickly,
about it is. Yeah.
Quickly, guys, we're going to do this for a few more minutes, and then Evan and Adam, you guys are going to be able to cross-examine for half an hour. We'll get 3 more minutes of this.
Oh, okay, I misunderstood the context. So this is their opportunity to question the progressives, and then they're gonna flip around. My black sheep said, best interest of the child. Most government involvement follows the stand. What the standard? What? Most government involvement follows the standard. Finish yours. I did.
And Evan and Adam, you guys are going to be able to cross-examine for half an hour. We'll get 3 more minutes of this.
Easy, anything left there?
Sorry, my stream for some reason cut off. It cut off like twice already. But I was gonna ask, well, like even there's no empiricism you said for the homosexuality example. What kind of threshold are we going to be looking for as far as when we implement some sort of duties or say this is wrong and this is right? Is it just outcome based? Because even that, letting them act on that thing is going to be a precondition to the outcome.
there are probably certain tendencies that if you behave in a certain way, then it typically is going to entail certain types of outcomes. You might be able to find specific instances where that isn't necessarily borne out. So like, for example, if we discover through some kind of psychological, increasing of our knowledge that like having too many parental figures in a family is objectively detrimental to the progression or development of a child.
Well, now we have a source. This is the problem with progressivism. They're so single-minded. What do the experts say? What do the holy overlords of the state say? I mean, let's use some common sense. Let's use some common sense. I don't think that if you're in the type of relationship where 5 dudes are living in a house together, that is a good situation for a child, whether they're gay or not. That's not an environment for a child. I don't need a study to understand that.
Parental figures in a family is objectively detrimental to the progression or development of a child, then I might be taking like a different response to what you're saying. But as of now, it just seems like it's sort of like an arbitrary like factor that I'm not sure would necessarily entail.
It's not arbitrary, because if you are in that type of relationship, then clearly having a nuclear family is not as high of a priority than somebody who doesn't have that kind of relationship. Even though sure, theoretically, 5 dudes could raise a child well. Theoretically, that could go well. But there's plenty of normal couples, both hetero and homosexual, that there's no reason to go there. And I don't know why. I don't understand why, if you're a progressive and you're talking to Christians, that you would not just cut that off and be like, yeah, of course, that's not that's not cool. I don't get that. I do not understand that. And that is why I am not a progressive or anything close. Okay, let's try again. My black sheep and my little black dog. So the standards set by the government for a safe and healthy family is based on the best interest of the child or children. Yeah. And that is, exactly. And that's what we're talking about. So we don't need a source. That's okay. We had 7,000 pentuples, and we gave them each a kid, and 60% of them died or ended up on drugs. So I guess that's not a good idea. That's the epitome of the problem with progressivism. You have to be told by your overlord that this is right and this is wrong. The same issue is there in religion, but at least the religion is something that is cohesive, as they were saying before. So again, if divine command theory, if God came down and said, all the things that I said were right, I was actually playing a trick on the devil, and now it's the opposite way, then you would have no choice but to do all the things that you right now think are completely immoral. Same thing for the progressives. Their whole thing was my body, my choice, right? And then as soon as it became something that they wanted, well, my overlord said that we need to get this jab, so that's it. Dogma. End dogma.
As of now, it just seems like it's sort of like an arbitrary like factor that I'm not sure would necessarily entail some kind of negative outcome.
Even when you measure the outcome of the child's progress or trajectory in life, you said it's an objective metric. By whose metric? Like whose objective metric? What exactly are we going to be looking for in terms of this is a good way that the kid is being raised, or this is not a good way that the kid is developing?
They're behaving in a way that perpetuates the type of harmonious system we would want to keep upheld. So like I said,
Yeah, but what is that? That's what he's asking.
that I do believe there are certain things that are virtue, certain things
Such as,
that people, certain ways people ought to view the world and ought to conduct themselves. I don't
like,
think everything is just,
Okay.
like Evan said, we're not libertarians.
And I think
I am.
in
Perfect.
the
So-
cases where, and this is important just as a clarification, in the cases in which there are going to be nuances to what exactly the pros and cons are of specific outcomes. So like this happens in policy all the time. We know that some economic policies may have externalities, but it's a matter of weighing out the pros and the cons. The method through which and determining what exactly the decisions are going to be made is going to be through that process of rigorous debate and reason and empiricism, which is why
Yeah, before we decide on the child that is going home with 5 dudes, we need rigorous debate and empiricism.
Come on, man.
Progressives have no common sense.
progressivism encourages pluralism.
Okay, but you guys, just to make sure I understand though, you guys said that there's got to be some sort of cohesion and a social norm that we are to uphold. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay, and then if there's like a specific, like a small percentage of individuals that want to come in and disrupt the entire flow of how society ought to behave because there's cohesion in it, we probably shouldn't allow that, correct?
If they don't see what a setup this is, then they don't deserve to be here.
Depends on how you mean exactly, like what specifically you mean by that. But like I said, we want to push people to choose to not behave in that way as best as we can.
He's
If
saying,
people
Adam,
Right. See, again, we want people to choose not to act that way. If that was a real possibility, then we wouldn't have needed religion in the first place, because people would have already been doing that. The reason religion exists is because there is, maybe not humanity in general, but within any group of humans, there's going to be negativity and just bad people and stuff like that. So that is the entire point. So as a non-believer myself, I definitely understand the value of having this moral structure. And, like I said previously, I was saying the exact same thing as these guys, that, well, if you just, if we just study and make sure we know what the best empirical things is, then everybody will do them. Nope. It's naive. It's naive to think that.
said, we want to push people to choose to not behave in that way as best.
To the leftists, they are, oh yeah, religion and government are one and the same. They've turned it into a religion. And how sad is that? How sad is that? And while most of them are like, oh my God, you believe in this thing? You're so stupid. But you believe in that thing for no reason. Like, I'm the only one who should be able to say, you believe in that? That's stupid. Jokes.
Like what specifically you mean by that? But like I said, we want to push people to choose to not behave in that way as best as we can.
He's
if
saying,
people,
How's that working out?
despite all of those incentives, are still
Adam, he's
deciding
saying-
to act in that way.
No, he's asking a more direct question. Obviously, this will be the last one, but I'll rephrase
Sure.
it for you. Let's say from whatever metric you have, which I still don't know what it is, how you know you've obtained harmony, right? Let's say you've reached peak harmony. Easy saying, let's say a cluster of people come in, they're in the society, and they start disrupting what you, by your metric, say is harmony.
Okay.
We're asking, how could you argue from your own position to exclude them? Because now they're pursuing your paradigm inside your paradigm. They're just doing what you're saying. They're creating harmony.
Yeah, so the answer is that we couldn't. We couldn't. We would have to have a whole round of debates and studies and things to be able to tell anybody that they can't do this bad thing that we all agree is bad, but we don't have a study or a source, so we have to do that. That's a huge problem with progressivism.
Your paradigm inside your paradigm. They're just doing what you're saying.
Mhm.
They're creating harmony for themselves, and it
But it's
requires.
exclusive.
I actually think that in a way it may be that. So I guess it really depends on the specific example and what you mean by disruption. But I would use
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It just, whatever this is now that we've backed out, we're not talking about a specific example. So whatever you determine is harmony, whatever makes it not harmony. So in this part, the devil's not in the details.
So I guess it really depends on the specific example and what you mean by disruption. But I would use something, for example, like the existence of trans people as an example of this, where just
Oh, honey, sweetie, baby, this is not going to go well for you. If I was a progressive and I was in this debate, I would stay away from trans stuff at any cost. At any cost. If for no other reason than even people who are not Christians are very clearly not on board with that shit. But all right, Evan, let's see where you take it.
Of trans people as an example of this, where disruption can actually encourage, for example, I guess, progressive rigorous debate, because there is a small group of people that are disrupting something that normally we understood as being these rigid, strict gender norms, and the society around them, through their disruption, has adapted to incorporate them and also change its
You
own.
mean force us to lie? You mean force us to lie by
Well, no,
disruption,
it's,
right?
Yep.
no, it's not a lie. And unless you, and unless,
Damn, I wish I saved it, but quick aside quest. Maybe I'll actually let's look for it. What is her name? Ariel. Let's check. She is a lesbian, and she had, I don't know if it's gonna be right here, but she went to a Pride event. And she's like, where did all the gays go? A Pride has been, oh, you guys can't even see this. No, let's go a little more. No, I can't find it. All right, I can't find it. But yeah, her point was basically, she was at the Pride event, and she's like, are you gay or are you queer? And everybody said queer. There was no gay people left. They took it over. Ty said, I think things went haywire in the 80s as regard to societal norms, divorce, and self-absorbed parents.
Bingo.
Absolutely. I mean, you could look at no fault divorce. You could look at the expanding, welfare programs, which again I think should exist, but not to the degree that they are. Completely agree.
Force us to lie. You mean force us to lie by
well,
disruption, right?
no, it's not a lie. And unless you
It is though.
Force
actually
is
have, well, unless you actually have a substantive unless you actually believe that like trans people are substantively lying about their identity rather than just,
They're not lying. They're just, well, some are lying, but they're either lying or they're wrong.
just your semantic misunderstanding.
No, I'm saying you can't offer a referent for what a trans person is. Therefore, forcing other people to refer to something.
Ask him what a woman is.
Different for what a trans person is. Therefore, forcing other people to refer to something there's no referent for is forcing them to lie.
Can you clarify?
When you say
mean
forcing, do you mean like by the government, or that there's like some kind of cultural or social pressure?
Like, yes, social pressure. For instance, the government is included. By the way, there are schools in the state that I'm in that compels the teacher to affirm a position that a child takes about their own identity, and they're forced to affirm it. Otherwise, they could be sued or fired. That's coercive, forcing the person whose identity, let's say Christian, forcing them to lie. Is that disharmony or harmony?
So I can't speak to the specific example you just gave, so I don't want to delve into that too much, but I would say like anything that is against the general principles of the First Amendment, I would not be in favor of that, because I think that there are, like Evan was saying, like there's costs and benefits to all.
Yeah, me too. Super chat goal. Let's go.
All this stuff. And you're going to have to absorb some kind of cost to move in a direction that we think is socially harmonious. And I want to add one more thing you said earlier, like you don't know what exactly we mean when we talk about like progress and movement. And this might be sort of like a abstract
tautology. It just means progressing.
Way to illustrate this, but I think it's helpful if anyone here knows like mathematics. You guys know what an asymptote is? An asymptote is like it's like a function that's like always approaching a certain number, but it never fully gets there. Like as you zoom in more and more, there's always going to be like some gap.
It's always 99. Like
there's like a tendency towards a certain discrete value, but it's never going to actually be reached. You just decrease like the level of the delta, I guess, between where you are and where you want to be.
Yeah, but that's disanalogous, Adam, because even in that example, the target of what you're reaching. We're saying you don't even have the target.
But we know that there is a target, I guess, is what I'm saying. We know there's a target.
Oh, I found it. All right, I found it. Side quest.
No, this.
Oh, that's kind of loud. God damn.
What are even all of those flags? There's exactly one rainbow flag, and it's not even. It's not. No. There's one normal one. Are you gay? Are you homosexual?
I'm banned.
I'm asexual. I can't find other lesbians out there, so.
We're trying to see how many gay people we can find at Gay Pride. I don't think there's that many, actually. Is anybody in here a homosexual? Hands up. 2 out of 7. That's not too bad.
I am asexual and aromantic.
Asexual.
Are you gay?
Yeah.
1 out of 7. Okay.
I'm hunting for some lesbians.
She said it's time to go hunting for some lesbians. Your pants.
Yikes.
Queer.
Phrasing.
3 queers in a row. Are you gay or queer?
Queer.
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 Gay or queer?
Both?
As queer.
Queer, you're queer? Are you gay or queer?
I am queer.
Queer.
Queer. What is queer?
Queerness to me is like an expression of self. It's about being on a spectrum, not falling into those heteronormative, stereotypical boundaries. Queer as well.
It's just a thing that I say to make me feel special.
It's pretty boring to be just a basic lesbian right now. It's like one of them in this whole parade.
Oh my god.
Everyone's queer. Everybody, right?
I would think so, yeah.
Wild. And so that speaks to my half-baked thought that I do not say that gay marriage was the start of the slippery slope. I don't have the full argument yet. Come back to me in a little bit. We got Ty Cobb saying, we got that one. Gender itself is a social construct, but we're verboten from saying sexuality. Shh. You can't say that.
How dare you?
Yep. You got it.
We're saying you don't even have the target.
But we know
can't
that there
tell
is
us
a
the
target, I guess is
We're
what I'm
gonna
saying.
have
We know
to
there's a
move
target.
this on.
We know what
Never
a
a
target.
good
You
time.
know, okay.
Never
You know
a good
there is
time
a
to do
And
target.
it
this.
You don't know
becomes
what it
more
is.
apparent what that is as we decrease that delta. We can
How would you
narrow
know
the
that?
aperture of what.
So I will say the trap that atheists slash people on the left fall into when talking to Christians is being able to articulate, okay, just because, so take his specific example that say, we're talking about the 5 dudes and having a child. And he's saying, well, we need to debate and, have studies and all that stuff. Okay, that's a pretty extreme example. But when it comes to more subtle things, then the lack of having an answer of, okay, if we don't do this according to Christian norms, then what norms do we do it according to? That is not fully a fair question, because the ability to discuss those things is squashed by people who are Christians saying, well, you don't have the answer, well, then our answer is the best. Like, I mean, your answer is the best that we have. Is it the best out there? I don't know. Yeah, he's not a biologist. How is he supposed to know? Well, like I said, wow, everyone uses that label. How genuine and individualistic. It's not a phase, Mom. King Nirvana said, why would you want to celebrate not wanting sex? Asexual. Why celebrate any of it? But yeah, asexual is extra why. And again, the same reason the queer lady who was saying it's just to say that you're different, and they're just bored. They're just bored people who have they're boring people. So they need a thing. They're not smart about anything. They don't take the time to find a hobby. They don't have any skills, so they just gay themselves, or excuse me, they queer themselves, and then all is good.
There is a
And
target.
it
You don't know
becomes
what it
more
is.
apparent what that is as we decrease that delta. We can
How would you
narrow
know
the
that?
aperture of what we're
How would you
considering
know
as
what
the
it is?
target.
Yeah, okay.
Never a good time to do this, guys, but you fellas are going to need your half an hour as well. So I'm just going to read out some super chats, guys. If you want to go to the toilet or do anything right now, then do that.
All right, 1's in the chat if you want to see the super chats, or 2 if you want me to skip them.
Because I'm going to do this for a minute or so.
All 4 of them, I agree.
Just turn your cameras off and go to the toilet if you need to. I see Easy's already emptied the bladder, which is good. So first of all, we have got Rabid Player says harmony can carry a subjective definition. This is why a book like the Bible exists, to clarify the gray areas that present themselves in topics like this.
Do we got a second? Anybody else want to skip
Justin
these?
Henley for $10 says your side appeals to change, which means it cannot be objective. Objective truth of morality would be unchanging. Example.
And we got a second. All right, well, we'll pass
So
on.
For $10 says false.
one of the issues
For that may it's just poison to any society. So
True.
we have got half an hour on the clock.
Right.
Evan, Adam, whatever you guys want to go into,
Speaking of taking piss, I have to do that.
whatsoever, politics, culture, whatever that may be, you guys can go for it.
Okay, so Evan, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm curious as to I think that one of the issues I have with the framing around Christianity is there's this indignation that it's more objective, and maybe it may be more concise than progressivism, but
Assuming that it's true. Assuming that is true, it's absolutely those things.
I think that the objectivity is dubious, as it's fundamentally going to be based on interpretation. And one of the questions that you relate to us is who exactly is making the determination on what is considered progress, etc. But I can ask the exact same question: who is exactly responsible for interpreting the text, whether it be in the Bible or any of the various other books within Protestant
okay.
Christianity?
Well, this is an
how does that process work?
Got you. This is an epistemic question, but the debate isn't about how do you know something's objective or true. The question is,
right, but in order for your ideology to be better, if it's based on a truth claim, then that truth claim has to be true. That is a central part of Christianity being better than progressivism. Glumtex said, I don't think they're completely fucked, but it's hard to have empathy when they actively choose to be so hive-minded. And you know, we just like we're saying with the pride people, like they act like they're the renegades and the ones that are different and the counterculture. It's like, no, you're not, bro. Maybe. I'll let you guys
question, but the debate isn't about how do you know something's objective or true. The question is, if we all prefer whatever, pick one, pick any denomination of Christianity. If we preferred to gather around that denomination, use force to dominate the government and inform policy based on whatever that arbitrary choice was, from this debate, the question isn't how do we know Christianity is true or which is the true church, because it's irrelevant, because
it's not. It cannot. You cannot detach the truth claims. If you're saying this ideology that's based on this truth claim is the best, but the truth claim cannot be verified, you cannot have the best ideology. Or at least you can't say that it is the best ideology, because that's what Adam brought up before, that what if we have something that's more cohesive and more harmonious than Christianity, then it would have to be better. If you're leaving open for that, then fine. But specifically because we haven't had the time in human history to have those discussions where we have a secular world to be able to discuss those things, then it's not unless it's always been under socialism and communism. And so in the same way that you can't separate those things, you can't separate the examples of secular society from communism. Shout out to Larry Romano. Welcome to the party. Said based atheist is a contradiction in terms. Well, I am here to change your mind. Welcome to the party. You're gonna like me, I promise. Well, said just an observation. When the entire media and all institutions back your movement, you are probably not the resistance. Yeah, like Tim Pool would always talk about the kids putting the same slogans that Walmart is using. Like, oh, Jesus.
Oh, man.
How do we know Christianity is true or which is the true church? Because it's irrelevant, because the only argument at hand here is our preferences versus your preferences, and whether or not our preferences, even if they were totally arbitrary, even if we granted you that it's totally arbitrary.
Okay, if he's going this way, where he's saying, well, maybe my ideology is arbitrary too, and then we talk about just the values, then he's won me back. Because because that's essentially what I'm calling for, is living like Christ, like Christians, but without the necessity to have the dogmatic aspects. So let's see.
Preferences, and whether or not our preferences, even if they were totally arbitrary, even if we granted you that it's totally arbitrary, there's no normative authority for anything. Even if that was the case, whatever the consensus was by preference, which is why I included in my opener, if one of you guys, and I know someone who doesn't consider themselves a progressive, but they're certainly atheist, they actually prefer the Christian ethical system for policy, but they don't believe any of the Christianity.
Exactly. He won me back. And shout out to Ty Cobb with the $2. Thank you so very, very much. So keep your money in your wallet, my son. Indeed, I will do. And of course, a treat for Morty. Thank you so much. That's 2 out of 10 more. That's 2 out of 10, guys. 8 more, and I'm on the floor. And Morty gets his bone. Thank you, Ty Cobb. And of course, that makes you a new co-sponsor of the stream. KFT, I'll give you that penny on me.
ethical system for policy, but they don't believe any of the Christianity. So it's like your hypothetical is an epistemic question about the consistency of Christianity, but the consistency of Christianity epistemically is irrelevant to the dominant, whatever the dominant view was. If it came into power, you guys couldn't really argue against it from a progressive view. Why? Because it's preference leading. It's just
so that's what he is separating, like I do, separating the values themselves from the truth claims. And if other Christians were more on board with that and say, well, it doesn't really matter if you believe in the truth claims. That's irrelevant. Whether you believe in God, whether you believe Jesus was resurrected, that is irrelevant. It just matters that you're behaving in this way. That's exactly my message to a T. Ty said there memes there. What? There are memes from the Drew Carey show. I must have missed that one. I know the Drew Carey show. I don't want to say before my time, but like I knew it was on, but I wasn't really watching that. You know, I was probably watching cartoons and stuff at that time. But either way, I appreciate it very, very much.
You guys couldn't really argue against it from a progressive view. Why? Because it's preference leading. It's just whoever wins.
I don't think. I actually know that I'm not asking an epistemic question. I'm not asking how do you have a knowledge on whether or not, for example, the text in the Christianity is true and determining which of those texts is the right interpretation. I'm asking, as a matter of practice, how does that play out? Because I would posit that it is actually through the age of the Enlightenment and values that I would distill as being progressive are actually what has evolved Christianity's own interpretations of their own text, slavery being a key example.
Okay.
Shout out to equality and deference because of vagina. I'm going to keep that up there. Don't make me regret it. Welcome to the party. Ty said, all I remember, my first encounter of the queer kind, I tried not to stare. They look weird. I don't know if you guys know about this, but there was, I've talked about it a little bit, but there was this dude, you know, kind of a hipster looking dude, but you know, long hair and glasses and like a sweater vest or whatever. But he had a viral TikTok. It was like, why do polyamorous people always look like that? And that went semi-viral. And then like a day or two later, then the most looking like that Exhibit A person was stitched the video. They're like, why do they always look like that? And it cuts to her or it or whatever, and bald and nose ring and bad skin and fat. And what do you mean you look like that? It's like, oh, honey, sweetie, baby. Oh man, they all look like that. Good evening to you as well. Oh, it's gonna hide it when
interpretations of their own text, slavery being a key example.
Okay, so you're asking if it was implemented. You're saying how does it look if Christianity is implemented, right, into society? Well, you've answered your own question. If you agree that human rights are a thing, which your own view can't justify, if you agree that human rights exist and you just admitted that they're remnant of, let's say, a Protestant view, maybe we would say maybe deist, someone would argue even. If that was the case, even that iteration of Christianity, you're actually appealing to if you're appealing to rights by your own admission, right?
I don't know if I understand your question.
Yeah, I didn't either. We'll jump back through that. Tycon said, although I've heard Jesus had to get tarted up to ride a donkey in the Gethsemane or whatever. I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe this one's going over my head, but explain it.
Rights by your own admission, right?
I don't know if I understand your question.
Did a Christian worldview, generally speaking, give you this concept of Enlightenment principles like human rights, human dignity, created? These things are self-evident. We're created and endowed with things, right? This is
yes, sure. I don't know specifically if it was just Christianity or if it was the basic human nature of this, that, but I am totally willing to say, yes, everything that I know, all of my morals are based on what Christianity says. Claudia said, your own view can't justify But appealing to imaginary friends totally provides the rational framework that says equality and difference. I'm so glad you're here.
This is not a naturalist point of view, correct?
Yeah, it's not a naturalist point of
So
view.
what?
I don't
So is it religious? Is it?
Yeah, like Quali said, all kinds of civilizations had concepts of rights. You do not need a dogmatic structure. You don't need it. Oh, guys, 30 seconds until the goal is over.
A religious view then?
No, I think it's fundamentally going to be based on human empathy.
Okay, no, but okay, that's interesting.
And in accordance with reason.
Did you know? You said you're an empiricist. You're into empiricism. Did you know that empathy itself is determined to be an involuntary response that's often a projection of your own back knowledge of your own experience, and often wrong? By the way, empathy itself being involuntary, if that was the arbiter for what is good, if as long as I feel something when someone's being attacked, I'm not obligated to do anything but make sure I feel what they might be feeling, correct?
You know, just it doesn't matter if black people are getting murdered in the streets. As long as I post a black square, then I've done my duty.
Yeah, you're not.
I don't need to do it. I don't need to help them.
You're
Right?
not obligated objectively. No.
Yeah, so someone's getting raped in an alley. As long as I feel empathy for the woman in the alley, according to your paradigm, I could just keep walking.
That's good enough. Now, I would say, hey, if that's going on, number one, I'm a dude, and I can, definitely get hurt, and I'm a small dude who can get hurt. And you've been said you don't want men to protect you, so that's why I wouldn't go down that alley. But I would want to. I said the glitter paralyzed my optic nerve. You are going through it. You are going through it.
As long as I feel empathy for the woman in the alley, according to your paradigm, I could just keep walking, right?
Well, that's why we do encourage, or we have a system of like a state and laws and the provision of force to prevent stuff like that from happening, because we understand that
the government will take care of it.
Individuals have an interest in preserving their own interests.
And force, you mean men, right?
That is, well, sure.
So Quali said, if one, I suppose, I'm supposed to help those being harmed. How is God? Oh, yeah. So if I'm supposed to go help this person, what is God doing? God can let that stuff happen, but if you do, you're bad. But God, it's totally fine for God to do that.
So you're
great point.
Honestly, I don't.
You're sexist, right?
I don't care to get in the whole gender thing, but
well, I mean, it's important.
You're the one who brought up the trans stuff, bro.
Yeah, but that's a side.
No, but it is important because if you
wait, I want to hear the question.
Interest, and honestly, I don't.
Right.
That is in preserving their own interests and
force. You mean men, right?
That is. Well, sure.
So you're
honestly, I don't.
So you're sexist, right?
So you're saying, well, we need men to protect those women because the women can't protect themselves. That's sexist, and obviously not. But good trap for the progressives.
I care to get in the whole gender thing, but
well, I mean, it's important because
but that's a side.
It is important because if you agree that even a version of Christianity that sort of adopts this Enlightenment approach to rights, and you also admit from an empirical position rights are illusory, there's not an actual thing empirically called the right. Would you constitute that as a false belief worth believing, worth adhering to, even?
Shout out to M169. Welcome to the party. Said a Christian would argue that the person intervening is acting as the hands and feet of God. Oh, so it's God who's doing the grape. Oh, okay. I mean, personally, that kind of puts me in the same position, but makes sense. Welcome to the party.
Right. Would you constitute that as a false belief worth believing, worth adhering to, even though it's false?
No, it's not. It's not false if it's an acknowledgement that it's a societal construct.
Okay, so Christianity.
Because we're not making the claim that the rights that we create as a matter of law are objective or natural.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but by the way, that's also something that like some, for example, secularists do believe, and as long as there's a mutual agreement between those things, and that's what I think I was hinting at earlier of universal understanding and universal interests, is it doesn't really matter how we come to these approaches. There are certain things that society tends towards.
Yeah.
And I would just.
And that's what I'm always saying. But equality here is saying, so if no one helps, that's God not helping.
Bingo.
Apparently. Ty said, Jesus withering an innocent fig tree because he was hungry, but it wasn't time for figs to fruit. I don't know the Bible. I only know anecdotes and Galatians. Most Christians are the same. Maybe a little bit less.
Describe that as being motivated by human empathy and reason, and then that's extended to empiricism.
Okay,
but
fair enough.
Like, for example, Adam may have a different normative framework than I. But because we agree on these like broad and practical implementations, that's fundamentally
so empathy. So Evan, empathy and rights. What I'm gathering is, do you just correct me if I'm wrong? Do you think following your empathy and abiding by something called
so before he goes into this, so what let's go back to what he just said.
But because we agree on these like broad and practical implementation.
So he's talking about, because we agree on these broad and practical things, then everything's going to be harmonious and cohesive. But again, there is not that agreement. And I am somebody who believes that there can be that type of agreement, but that work needs to be done. We can't just assert that, like, well, the scientist said that you should act like this. So you're like, oh, okay, we're going to act like that. It's not that simple. Ty said they're massive sexual deviants who goes to sexual violence to prove a point. I mean, it depends on what the point is. Sometimes sexual violence is specifically what you're talking about. Equality said, quote, the quickest cure for Christianity is reading the Bible. And that's exactly what it did it for me.
So
let's go back.
But like, for example, Adam may have a different normative framework than I. But because we agree on these like broad and practical implementations, that's fundamentally
so empathy. So Evan, empathy and rights. What I'm gathering is, do you just correct me if I'm wrong? Do you think following your empathy and abiding by something called rights, even though you agree it's a construct, you're saying let's start with that? That's a good starting framework. I think we agree on that.
If by starting, I mean that I think that that's how people come to their understanding in recognizing the interests of others.
Sure. What does this one say? We got a super chat that said, we don't hold human rights to be objective. Automatic Jimbob L. Well, I meant to do that. Oh man. Yeah. To be objective. I definitely think they are objective. Come on. What if I do this? No.
How people come to their understanding in recognizing the interests of others, because I think the ethics are fundamentally going to be looking after the interests of others without diminishing the interests of others.
The reason I asked that is because if you think society is better with rights, if a right is an entitlement, but you don't have a duty. For instance, whether you guys believe in gun ownership or not, or whatever, let's just say you have.
I'm gonna guess no.
The right to own a gun, but you don't have an obligation to own a gun, right? So that's why I'm pointing that out.
The right to own a gun is just the absence of the infringement of the state.
So you don't, but it doesn't mean you have to own a gun. You're not obligated. So the problem with the rights-based position is that you adhering to empathy and rights gives you an entitlement, but it doesn't give you a deontology of why we ought to acknowledge the entitlement at all. You're just saying we should because it feels right. Right.
Well, that is a straw man. Well, it just feels right. That's, and maybe some people argue that, but the people like myself who can say we're arguing it for not because it feels right, because objectively we've empirically seen that in people's lives this increases well-being or decreases suffering. So it's not just about fifis. Maybe for them it is, but for a smart person it shouldn't be. Besides, forcible coitus is about what? I mean, very true, very, very true. And what's the always the excuse about, Jesus came and changed everything from the Old Testament, as if God didn't know that he was already going to send his son, who was him, to die, but then come back. And I don't know. Shout out to Zippy DSM Lee. Welcome to the party. So this hurts my brain. A woke Christian is like a double oxymoron that doubles down on the dumb. It's definitely not an oxymoron. As any film here saying many a Christian progressives, but is doubling down on dumb. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Quality said the unchanging God changed his rules.
Acknowledge the entitlement at all. You're just saying we should because it feels right. Right?
Well, we should because that's what we've agreed on, and we don't have an issue with people not agreeing to it out of some sort of.
But we could.
More,
but we could.
We could, but we don't because of the empiricism. That's the part that he's missing. Like, yes, it's all. If you want to, like, we feel that we feel good that this empirically makes people's lives better. Okay, if you want to go there, then like, all right, sue me for wanting to do what objectively will make life better. If that's not what you want to do, then I don't think we're on the same team. Zippy said, God has to deal with man. So be rough in the first part, then forgiving in the second part. God is gaming man to teach man a lesson. Sounds like cope. How about just make man or give man the lesson to begin with? You are God. You can do that. Right?
But we don't. I think
I'm saying, but we could, and it wouldn't be inconsistent with your view because we agreed upon it, right? Whatever we agree upon collectively is a go for you guys, right?
No, not necessarily. If it's not,
Okay,
if it's not
so
to the detriment, if it's not to the detriment, or if to the detriment of others. If by you mean everybody, and by everybody you literally mean everybody, then sure. If it advances human flourishment, and that's why we were mentioning earlier that it's not necessarily incompatible with Christianity. Theoretically, theoretically, you could have a Christian progressive society, and that's what I was hinting at earlier.
If that is a Christian progressive society, no, thank you. No, thank you. Talking about doubling down. Zippy said, man has to learn. Man gains nothing if he does not learn the lesson on his own. Maybe with another man, but if you already have, if God has the ability to imprint lessons on your brain, then no, you don't need to learn. You just need the information. So unless you're saying that God is unable to make a person who knows something without going through something first, then okay, fine. But then we're not talking about Yahweh.
Theoretically, you could have a Christian progressive society, and that's what I was hinting at earlier. In that you're in the ways in which Christians, in practice, have interpreted their own text and advanced their own ideology has actually been through the Enlightenment values that progressivism is centered around.
Say that again. Sorry, that last.
I wish they would go in that. I would like to see where, in terms of just understanding what these the progressives, what they actually think about stuff. I would like to hear, what they were talking about. But it came into the discussion when they're talking about rights and saying that you have the right to free speech doesn't mean that you have to say something. It just means that you can. And they were comparing that to the Second Amendment, where you are allowed to have a gun, but that doesn't mean you have to.
Values that progressivism is centered around.
Say that again. Sorry, that last part.
The way that Christians in practice, whether or not they are obtaining this through some sort of epistemological truth or not.
Okay. So now we care about what's practical. Now we care about what's practical. Before, you were just talking about what sounds good on paper, which clearly is not working out, which is clearly bringing society in the wrong direction. But now you want to talk about practicality.
Come on, man.
Zippy says, if God imprints lessons, man become, I don't know even what that word is. Something else or something not man. Man is man because man lacks knowledge and must learn. How do you know that? So you're saying if something is revealed, if God reveals something, if there's a revelation, then whom it was revealed to is not a man? I think there's plenty of instances in the Bible where God just is like, hey, it'd be like that. Or sends an angel. It'd be like, it'd be like that. No teaching, none of that necessary. Shout out to Cheddar Steve over on Rumble. Said one side drinks the blood of their Lord on Sundays. The other side thinks men can have babies. Cheddar Steve, you get it, man. You get it. Delete to you, sir, and welcome to the party. That's exactly. It's I mean, you know, there is the what's the word I'm looking for? The hypocrisy that they want to talk about how my side is so much better because of what it is, not because of how it plays out. I agree. Christianity, if we had to pick either Christianity or progressivism, I would choose Christianity. That doesn't mean it's the best we can do. Tykov said the Book of Job displayed the OG Almighty's narcissism. Bro. Between Job and Lot's daughters. Ugh.
This through some sort of epistemological truth or not.
Okay.
The way in practice that Christians evolve their own interpretations of their own texts that are also written by man. The way that happens is through the processes that we've delineated from the Enlightenment, which is exactly what progressivism is centered around.
Well, I would argue against that, Evan. I would actually argue.
You rely. I'm just saying you rely on these human developmental emotions and reasons.
Okay.
Christian societies do that.
I got you. I understand what you're saying, and I would agree with you, but you're actually talking about
shout out to Cheddar Steve smashing that like button like a Philly fan smashing up their neighborhood after the Super Bowl. Shout out to Philly, I guess, but thank you so very much. If you have not already done so, please do hit that like button. It is free, it is easy, and helps out the channel so very, very much. Zippy said, shifting the goalpost. If God granted knowledge first, then they would not be men, but angels. Man must learn, must struggle. It's through learning, man grows and gains greater understanding. God does not reach out, but rather you understand more. So again, I don't know what shift that is. I'm directly responding to this. You're saying if God granted knowledge first, then it would not be men, but angels. So you're saying anybody on earth, anybody who's a human being who has had revelatory information from God is an angel. Is that based on what you're saying? That's what the message you're saying, that anybody who's getting a message from God or from an angel is not a man. That's what you're saying. Where did I shift the goalpost, and where am I wrong about what you're saying? I don't know what progressive means. I don't know what Christian means. I don't know what progressive Christian means. I don't know what any of these things mean. People use them, and they're bad at being words. They're bad at being words. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. God, specifically God, is very bad at being a word. The purpose of a word is to take the thoughts that are in my head and put them into your head. When I say chair, you may not think exactly this chair, but for the purposes of a chair, you understand precisely what I mean. Something to sit on. When I say God, all that pops up is what your idea of God is. And that's not what words are supposed to do. Equality said, big problem. The definition of Christian and the definition of progressive. Bingo. Yep. You get it.
I understand what you're saying. And I would agree with you, but you're actually talking about progressive Christianity, like heterodox, basically. So I would grant you your description is accurate, but you're giving yourself a lot of liberty by saying anyone who claims to be Christian and abides by a classical liberal approach or an Enlightenment approach is Christian, and they've evolved it, right? I would reject that. I would say, no, that's actually a mistake.
I mean, I would reject that as well, but the church at large doesn't. It's, I mean, look at Nallaray, look at Russell Brand, look at, who was the other one? I forget the other big name of somebody who was debaucherous and then had a revelation. And I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm just saying that within Christianity, there's no mechanism to determine who is just saying, I'm a Christian now, for their own selfish purposes, and who is actually changing their mind. Zibi said, no, they gain understanding later, not first. You said if God just skipped all the BS and gave man knowledge at birth. Right? So I'm talking about a specific man now. So not for all men, not for all people. I'm saying if somebody was to gain knowledge through God just revealing it to them, are they no longer a man? You said they would not be men but angels. So you're saying anybody who has spoken to God or believes they've spoken to God is either wrong or not a man, but an angel.
And they've evolved it, right? I would reject that. I would say, no, that's actually a mistake. This is why, Evan, I just want to give you a distinction from a Christian paradigm. Do you think there's a difference between rights and duties?
I think that, yeah, I would say that there's, I interpret rights as being strictly societal.
So if
rights would be more about what you can do, and duties is more about what you should do.
Christians, if suddenly tomorrow you push the button and there were no rights at all, would Christians still have duties?
Yes.
According to their worldview, or like,
yeah,
or like objectively speaking?
Their worldview. If you took away rights as a concept, would they still have duties? Like, for instance, if you removed all rights, all the Bill of Rights was gone tomorrow. Ben Shapiro's pissing his pants, right? He's pissing his little diapers. Okay. By the way, I despise that guy. So let's say that happens, right? And all of the
what happened to the Ben Shapiro fan club? He used to be like right up there. Everybody loved him, and now, I mean, I don't mind Ben. I don't mind Ben, but I don't love him like that. But people are turning on him.
Constitutionalist right-wing people are just losing their shit. I'm saying Christians, the ones who are practicing, they would still be able to. They would still practice their duties. For instance, they would still have the duty to procreate, to be the mini priest of their house, to participate in sacraments, to pray. These things don't go away from a Christian view, even if you remove the Enlightenment. I'll just grant you that the Enlightenment has had an effect on what we would now call progressive Christianity. But Evan and Adam, I would just as well swap you guys for a proponent of those that Christian view as well for the next debate. So it's not really saying much, but I kind of get where you're.
Yeah, I don't really get what he was trying to say there. So, Zippy, you're the one adding this at birth thing. I never said at birth. I said if there is a person who gets information revealed to them by God, then they are not a person. They are not a man. So I'm not talking about giving all knowledge of everything. I'm talking about knowledge of a specific thing at a specific time. If God says, hey, Zippy, you should go to X, Y, and Z place and you will find, riches. And then you go and you find them. Under the Christian worldview, you would believe that that would be God, right? I would assume that there ain't nobody else talking to you. Are you no longer a man? Because God gave you information. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about God having God giving all humans all knowledge about everything. I was never talking about that. How did this start? Where did we first say? So God has deal with man. Yeah. So the God doesn't have to deal with man. He can just make a person who knows that and let them be the conduit. Like Jesus.
A Christian view as well for the next debate. So it's not really saying much, but I kind of get where you're trying to go with it, is that you're trying to say that, well, look what the Enlightenment has done for Christianity. See how they adapted? And I would say, I just wouldn't grant that that was I think that was a mistake, honestly. It led to feminism.
Wait, what was a mistake?
And I would say, well,
the Enlightenment in general was a mistake?
Look what the Enlightenment has done for Christianity. See how they adapted? And I would say, I just wouldn't grant that that was I think that was a mistake, honestly. It led to feminism. It led.
So, wow, that's a bit of a stretch. I agree that it did chronologically lead to feminism, but being enlightened about how the universe works is not a bad thing because it may come with feminism. And I think today, feminism is way weaker than it was maybe not 5 to 10 years ago. Feminism was a much bigger problem, and the influence is still there. But how many women actually care about egalitarianism, call themselves feminists? Not very many. King Nirvana said, in modern day debate, at this moment, Jake Rattlesnake is in a debate. Please go away from my stream and go watch other things, please. Ty said, I don't entertain any one God. I inherently know there's something greater than myself. It's just the something. And so this is, this kind of touches on what I was saying when we were watching Rainn Wilson and Alex O'Connor, when he was saying, well, it depends on whether I'm agnostic or atheist, because I have to know what you are talking about to determine whether or not I believe in it. And so when you say God, if I don't understand what you mean, then I have to be agnostic because I don't know if I believe in that thing. There might be, again, something greater that you would call God. Maybe I do believe in that, but I don't know what you're talking about. Zibby said, I read into the Bible. I see God making a flawed being to pass the time and fuck with. Kind of like training feral cats. Good example. Mind you, I'm using God in a general sense. Christians are just one of the many that see part of the whole. I wish they would understand that. I wish they would understand that.
I would say I just wouldn't grant that was a good. I think that was a mistake. Honestly,
Well,
it
but
led
you
to
would
feminism. It led
you
to
would grant-
feminism.
Sure, but you would grant.
Do you know? Okay, if you know, then please allow me to know. My entire life's work is about knowing exactly this. So let me tell me the steps that you did so that I can do that as well. I would love that.
That was a good. I think that was a mistake. Honestly,
Well,
it
but
led
you
to
would
feminism. It led
you
to
would grant-
feminism.
Sure, but you would grant some things
That's so retarded. That's so retarded to say.
that were adapted from the Enlightenment, like the abolition of slavery, and the Christians who justified their abolitionist ideology,
Sure,
based on principles.
Yes.
I'm just saying you wouldn't make a broad sweeping brush. Sure,
Evan.
obviously, yeah.
Okay, can you come to the correct conclusion from the wrong reasoning ultimately?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so
Yeah. So no, this just happened to be, what was up, and I mean that is not in. It's not inked in blood yet. We're waiting on. Oh, we got an email. Let's see. Do we have confirmation? Nope. All right. So it was a last minute thing because somebody dropped out and DebateCon, going to DebateCon, and James Coons from Modern Day Debate reached out to people to see if they would want to do a 4v1 debate on with Andrew Wilson. And so hopefully I'm in there. So Sunday morning, way earlier than my brain will be working. Hopefully I'm on stage with Andrew Wilson. ZB said, if only Christians would learn from Buddhism and learn some self-reflection and refinement. Then again, popular Buddhism is kind of like modern popular Christianity. It's almost like as time continues, the idea of Christianity or religion in general makes less and less and less and less and less sense. Another reason why to join. There you go. Ty said we carry thousands of years. We carry thousands of year old trees in our hands. What more evidence do you require? What? What does this mean? I have no idea what you're talking about here. Is this your God of the Gaps argument? I don't understand how a tree could be thousands of years old in my hand, therefore it must be God. Yikes. Quality Endeavor said feminism. Did I miss it? It's true. Think it for yourself. That'd be bad magic. Feminism is cancer for sure, but saying something that happened hundreds of years ago gave us cancer is quite a stretch.
Bingo.
Well said. Well said.
from the wrong reasoning ultimately.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I would just put that in that category. I would be like, yeah, they abolishing slavery, right? Elevating other human beings,
or are they all invalid
to the status of image bearers of God, right? Equal from that view under God, sure. But the problem is there's a lot more entailed in the Enlightenment that caused a disaster for modern, what I would call modern Christianity. One, and most importantly, that you guys would advocate for, I think it's a complete disaster regardless of the worldview. Feminism is the worst thing for society that we've seen in the last 100 years. The
worse than transgenderism? Yeah, this is a bad road to go down. Like, I think we can all agree feminism is cancer. But to say, oh, we never should have gotten rid of slavery because then it became feminism. What? Like, bro, what? Well, like I said, a Buddhist monk did that at a seminar I attended one time. Still believe it to this day. Oh, there you go. Ty said that's not a namaste. Gontek, that emoji is actually a high five. That's, well, technically, if you type pray, the hands will come up. Technically, it will come up. I do believe you're correct. It was meant to be a high five, but we decide. This is a perfect example. I'm going to take, actually, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of a side quest here. That Quantic is saying Jesus and Buddha are like this. Well, which, you know, kind of does work with the high five. But we always talk about semantic obfuscation and linguistic creep. Semantic obfuscation being the purposeful changing and twisting of words, or the meaning of words, or the usage of words to help your political purposes. And then linguistic creep, when a bunch of people have already been doing a lot of that twisting and obfuscating of the language, and now you are subject to that, and you just believe that Antifa means anti-fascist. Semantic obfuscation. But on the other side of that, even though this emoji was meant to be to be a high five and not praying hands, the fact that everybody uses it this way organically, not that we were told, hey, don't use that for high five, that's for praying hands. We organically use that. It now means praying and all that stuff. That is how language works. I don't even want to know what's going on there. There you go. That's for the white supremacists.
Feminism is the worst thing for society that we've seen in the last 100 years. The worst thing.
So
put a 1 in the chat if you agree that feminism is the worst thing, or if there's something else like transgenderism or war, that would be worse.
So why?
But that's progressive, right? That's progressive.
Why is it that Christians? It took the Enlightenment to come around on things like abolishing slavery, and they weren't able to decipher that from their own texts. If
because it tells them how to have slaves.
If Christianity in and of itself, in its practice, is more beneficial for society, why did it take these things like human rights?
Well, he's saying the Enlightenment caused feminism, and that's the worst thing. That was his statement. So if the Enlightenment caused feminism, and feminism is the worst thing, and feminism created trans, that don't make no sense, homie. What he's saying, not what you're saying.
Why did it take these things like human rights, which was deciphered out of the Enlightenment, to actually teach Christians, or rather help them reinterpret their own text?
Doesn't that question?
Transtardation. I think I'm going to steal that. Transtardation is the mutant child of feminism. Both deny reality. Yep. And so he says feminism created the snowball that ruined men and modern culture. Also cannot disagree with that.
Presuppose that it wouldn't have happened without that. I would have to grant you your presupposition.
I'm sure. Okay, sure. Well, let me just,
guys, we are coming up on the 2.5 hour mark. If you would like to keep the party raging, you know how to do it.
Ask why didn't it happen through their own interpretation then?
I think perhaps modernity. I think that maybe historically, when these philosophers started crafting these ideas for the Enlightenment, that whole project was pointing toward individualism specifically. The problem I have with it isn't obviously the abolition of slavery, but could you see that it went completely in the other direction toward pure individualism? And if that's the case,
wait, what?
The abolition of slavery, but could you see that it went completely in the other direction toward pure individualism?
Yes.
And if that's
so the as much as I do believe that the individual liberty has to supersede any other laws or ideologies that we have, the hyper individualism that I think he is talking about doesn't doesn't respect the notion of community and, it takes a village to raise a child and all that kind of stuff. So I would have to say yes if I was a progressive. Well, I mean, yes is the answer, but they have to contend with that. Zippy, it said enlightenment created equal treatment to equal merit, which created feminism, which was a scam to replace men with feminism men. So we should have just not ever learned all of the things from the Enlightenment. Is that where we're going with this?
It's the case. It's possible. Like, for instance, let's take Martin Luther King Jr. as a perfect example. There's this lawful segregation, right? And everyone's going, what the hell's going on? But if you study it, even under such law, the Black communities were in churches. They were learning to read. They were catching up very quickly. They had their own businesses. They had a lot of their own transportation. They basically had their own culture. And could you see that fixing one thing that you find unjust can actually cause a rubber band effect into the complete other polar opposite, which is
I have a practical question in that vein, sort of like addressing what you're talking about.
Before he goes there, Zippy said there's no pure individualism. You either have a collective that protects individual will and liberty, or you have revolving collectivism. Completely agree. And I think that with progressives, leftists, the notion of individualism is just kind of thrown out the window, when even though there's no pure individualism, having the the desire or focus on helping an individual or the individual shouldn't be absent.
Other polar opposite, which is
I have a practical question in that vein, sort of like addressing what you're talking about. I'm going to presume that both you guys are against slavery, like broadly speaking, I'm guessing.
Well,
Okay.
unless you
So if
consider,
you guys-
unless you consider, unless you can make a meaningful distinction between
chattel slavery, to be specific.
prison and slavery. Can you?
Sure. I'm talking specifically about like chattel slavery as it existed in the U.S. I'm guessing you guys are both against that. And at the time, there were abolitionists who used Christianity as their justification. And there was also pro-slavery people who might have used Christianity as their justification. And this is genuinely a question for clarity's sake. If you guys were to go back in time and have some kind of political voice, some kind of ability to advocate, what kinds of arguments would you make to advocate against slavery, if not the types of arguments that me and Evan would make?
That's a good question. So Tab, am I reading this right to say defective male? Are you trans or intersex or something like that? What are we talking about?
And how would you convince those other Christians who would use the exact same religion as a justification for slavery itself?
I'd use the metaphysical distinction of made in God's image. And
what if they just say like no, like they're not the same as like us?
Then I would ask them, what is their normative authority for interpretation? And if theirs doesn't match a 2,000-year-old normative authority, apostolic succession,
does human well-being not match a 2,000-year-old authority, apostolic succession?
They're ultimately admitting that they're just imagining this stuff up in their head and just crafting. By the way, Adam and Evan, I argue against these types of Christians all the time.
Sure, and I'm not.
And I think, that's someone like myself who is into the values, but not for the truth claims, also have a very big issue with the type of Christians who are just kind of, wearing it as a costume the same way that the trans tardies do the same thing. Hey, shout out to Ty Cobb. Thank you for the $2 fifth super chat on a live stream. And it's for me and Morty. Thank you. No question, no comment, just pure love of the puppy. And of course, out sponsoring yourself. Thank you so very, very much. So let's keep the party raging. Oh man. So, all right, we are, you know what? I'll make a new goal. I'm going to make a new goal and see if we can get Morty his bone. I think we can do it, guys.
I argue against these types of Christians all the time.
Sure, and I'm not trying to say that you don't, but
I'm just saying, like, it's kind of a moot point, because if ultimately Christianity has to go back in time and
all right, guys, $10 in 45 minutes. I'm not asking a lot. We can do this. Zippy said, "What is God's image? What is the sun reflected on a pool of muddy water? It's nothing like the real thing. What is in the image of God? I mean, I kind of, I mean, I agree with the notion that, like, what does that even mean? But what do you mean by what is the sun reflected in a pool of muddy water? Oh, you okay? So it's not, when you say it's nothing like the real thing, you mean it's nothing like the real sun. Gotcha. Okay, so I agree. It's not the real thing. And then what?
Adhere to something normative.
Actually, let's back that up.
Like it's kind of a moot point, because if ultimately Christianity has to go back in time and adhere to something normative, Eazy and I would both agree that cohesion and the continuation of the Christian tradition in practice would be the only way you could actually keep it intact over time, which is why Eazy pushed back on your pluralism. You thought self-correcting is good. From Eazy and I, our position is that we we actually do have a self-correcting system, because it's maintained over time, that veers actually less than your paradigm. Christianity, even if you say, bro, 50,000 denominations, right? People say that slogan, right? Even that is, from your view, it's like self-correction would be arbitrary anyway. There's actually no reference point for what's correct and what's not.
But that's the same point with all these other denominations. Depending on what denomination you are, there is no reference point. It's just what that church dictates. So this is the false point that Christians make. Like, well, we have this objective thing of the universe, but you can't make that claim unless you can verify that objective thing actually exists. Because if it doesn't exist, then you're doing exactly the same thing as the progressives. Exactly.
At least Christianity, even if I granted all the splintering that happened in modernity and all the heresies and all of these new propped up churches, I would argue that it still has a past to refer to that's normative.
Sure. I
Even
guess
if
what
you
I'm trying to
disagree
get at
with
is,
it.
in practical terms, how do you resolve disputes between people that are using this exact same justification to make their point? And kind of turning back what you asked me in the beginning, like if you have a 50-50 split, I guess what is the rubric or the metric that's used to resolve the debate in practical terms?
Well, I would.
And shout out to Equality and Deverance saying, even if you Thanos snapped all non-Christians on the planet, you would still have around 40,000 different kinds of Christians warring with each other. It's almost like that's not the best humanity can do.
Debate, but I would also have no problem using force. That's why I think both of our paradigms, Evan, Adam, and JB and Eazy, that ultimately force doctrine is the ultimate arbiter, correct?
So are you guys Christian nationalists, just to clarify?
Can you define what that means?
Having a system of government, maybe particularly in the US, where there are laws in place and statutes in place that are meant to broadly enforce Christian values and adherence to the Christian religion and putting it above other religions?
Is that basically what Evan described as the remnant of the Enlightenment movement?
I mean, like codified into law.
Yeah, we already have that, by the way.
I mean, in very explicit terms, that gives Christianity is officially recognized by name as being the religion of the country, and that the laws are very directly referential towards Christian scripture and used as a justification.
No, I would. If you're arguing that the church is identical to the state, now I didn't say that, but I just want to make sure. Are you asking, is Christian nationalism the way you define it? The church and the state are the same entity? Or
what I'm asking is the state using its monopoly of force to, I guess, make Christianity as prevalent as possible within the society that it governs.
So you said force, that's a good way to get religion banned, and that's also the only way to spread it. The only way to spread it is by the sword. Guys, we do have a new swole go up at the top of the chat. It's just 5 super chats. 5 super chats of $2 or more. Guys, you can do it. We can do it. Let's feed Morty. Let's get him that bone. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much.
A force to, I guess, make Christianity as prevalent as possible within the society that it governs.
So, for example, would you punish homosexuality, not just ban or outlaw gay marriages, but actually punish homosexual sexual acts?
I would start with shame. I would start with public shame, and I would start by removing that kind of behavior from the public sphere.
Why wouldn't you use force? Why wouldn't you?
Good question. Why wouldn't you use force? Great question.
Why wouldn't
that
you
is
use
force?
Force
that is force. Remove.
Why wouldn't you use the force of the state?
Why wouldn't I, or would I?
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, because if you're a libertarian, then you're like, okay, well, I don't like that, but I would use shame because that's a social tactic and not the state. But if you're saying that this is what should be, then and you're okay with using force, then why wouldn't you use the force of the state to enforce your values?
I just said I would. I would say indecency, perfect example, like gay pride parades.
Wait. So to clarify, you would punish.
The difference. There's a difference between not letting gay people do gay pride parades, and then if somebody finds out that you're gay, you get in trouble. You get a fine. You go to jail. You go to re-education or whatever. Those are two very different things. Evan is asking about the second. Would you punish people for homosexuality?
Pride parades.
Wait. So to clarify, you would punish gay people through the state for exhibiting homosexual acts. Like if the state had evidence and knowledge that, for example, just two men had sex, you would punish them.
Yeah, calling difference, and naturally, homosexuality is self-correcting. They don't tend to spawn as much as normal people, and so when we move away from this establishment push for the LGBTQP whatever, then exactly the people who are born that way are going to be born that way, and then everybody else could live a normal fucking life.
I'm not sure I would skip to that. I feel like that's a further down the road.
I would say
why not? If that's what if it's so wrong, and it should be in the rules that we ask for, then why would that not be against the law? Why would that not be something that the state should be able to enforce violently if necessary? Hey, shout out to Zippy DFM Lee with the $10. There we go. Thank you. Should I be nice? I'll be nice because I love you and I love him. But remember, guys, that's how the goals work. It's not a dollar amount. It's a number of super chats. But I love you guys so much. We got a bone for the overlord. This is bacon flavor, baby. It's bacon. Look at him. Just look at him. We'll give it for Morty. There we go. Here, eat it. There we go. Thank you. So very. Thank you so very. What? It's there already. He wants me to hold it so he can chomp on it. Thank you so much. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. You know what? I honestly feel like he's not doing it because he knows there's a camera. I showed you guys the last time. He just does not like being on camera, and I think he understands it. But thank you so very much. I said, oh my God, please don't flash me fucking $2 into your virtual G-string. Please do. Right here, baby. Right here. That's what I'm talking about. He said Bugs Bunny or Mel Brooks, far better than any god that has ever been. I'll take it. Gonzaga said, oh my God, I haven't heard it's begging in so long. The good old begging strips. Yep. He's not very picky. He's very camera shy. As soon as we go upstairs, I will post it on the community tab. I will show you. As soon as he doesn't think that he's on camera, he's gonna start eating it. It's crazy. I don't know how he knows, but he knows every single time. But shout out to Zippy. Thank you so very, very much. Of course, our sponsor. And if we hit the goal instead of the bone, then I didn't even change it. So I'll do we still got 10 push-ups that we can do. So let's hit that goal. 4 more, and I'm on the floor.
I'm not sure I would skip to that. I feel like that's a further down the road.
I would say, Evan.
Why? Why wouldn't you skip to that?
Why? Because the reason is, first, I would look at society that's public first. I would look at the public square first. I would look at the private last, right? I find it more effective, by the way, Evan, is once you influence public decency and customs from your worldview, in this case, Christian, and that becomes the norm. You you don't need all of the threat of force right away, because the people who want to do that stuff basically navigate away from that society. So first and foremost,
Sure,
Evan and Adam, I think it's more effective, just so you know, it's more effective. We've seen this through the Karunka thing, is that social shame actually is very effective in getting people in line with certain behaviors. Would you agree?
Yeah, broadly speaking, I think that's true.
So I would go for that first.
If you had achieved the degree of social shame that's, I guess, maximized, would you then use
There he goes. There he
threat
goes.
of the state? Like, let's say, for example, you've actually reduced homosexual behavior,
Mhm.
but there's people who are.
Where is he? He's like scratching at it. Look at that tail going. There he goes. There he goes. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. He loves it. He loves it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Public Square has Tabasco beer and prawn shops. Well, I mean, the first two are all right. Maybe, you know, as long as you're not letting kids in, then it doesn't really matter, right? That's the big deal. It's about the children, the chillin'. Contact can unfortunately have to dip out. All right, brother. You have a good one. Have you seen the dog bowl? Dogs can't bowl. They have no thumbs. I like that. I like that. Zippy said shame is moot because those in power use it against anyone they dislike. I see what you're saying, where it's not as powerful as it once was, but I don't think that is an unchanging fact. I think that we could bring shame back. Make America shame again. And equality. I am Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense.
That's, I guess, maximized. Would you then use threat of the state? Like, let's say, for example, you've actually reduced homosexual behavior, but there's people who are still engaging it. Would you use, like, for example, the state to, let's say, imprison homosexuals?
Or even investigate if there's suspicion that two people might be gay, like two dudes living together in an apartment. Would you want to surveil them?
No, I would move to another phase, which is make living in that society, which would be already predominantly Christian, almost nearly impossible to continue.
So is there eventually a phase in which the state does have moral authority to punish gay people and throw homosexuals in prisons?
I mean, the answer has to be yes. The answer has to be yes if you're a Christian and you believe that Christianity should inform our laws. Why would it? Why? By what reason or what logic or what principle would you not use the state to crack down on homosexuality? If you believe in Christian nationalism, or if you don't even want to call it that, just saying that the Bible or Christianity should influence our laws. So he said that's the problem. Those in power only care about the appearance of doing right. You need to be harsh and strict in neutrality for shame to work. I agree. But I think, again, that is something that can be changed. I think, we used to live in a shame-based society where a lot of things you didn't do. We had enforced monogamy, all that kind of stuff. And I don't see any reason why we can't bring it back. We definitely don't have it right now, but I don't see why we can't bring it back. So, wow. Love thy neighbor, hate the sin, not the sinner. Gun Shadiversary would crush these fools. Apparently, they're not sending their best. They're not sending their best.
State does have moral authority to punish gay people and throw homosexuals in prisons.
At some point?
Yeah.
I'm not actually sure. No, I'm not
Why?
sure that
Why?
that would
Yeah.
be required.
Why?
What is your hesitation in making as definitive of a
That's
statement
the
on that as you would in terms of social pressure? Like,
great. That's how you should have asked. Not just why. What is your hesitation? I'm stealing that.
let's say we've achieved all the social pressure you want, perfect conditions in a public setting, but people still engage in gay sex in like a private setting.
They're still gaying each other. Oh my God, they're gaying each other. We gotta get the state involved to make sure that the gays don't gay each other.
How would you want the state to engage?
I'm also curious why you wouldn't use the state. Do you think that the state's invasion of their private life is inherently wrong? Because it's
because that would be a more libertarian thing where they're like, we're definitely all libertarians.
It seems clear to me that if it's in accordance with your Christian values or the values of Christianity, it wouldn't inherently be wrong unless you believe in something like individual rights and the interests and the protections against the state. But if that's not the case, then I don't know what you're appealing to.
Well, the thing is,
Oh, he's a Mormon, not a moron. Shed is the history sword guy who's a Mormon, but against all the censorship of the right and the woke right. Well, dilly to that. I too am against the censorship of the right and the woke right. I said I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. Contact was fitted with a Holter monitor. Hope you're not dying. What? What are we talking? What? Better nobody dying without telling me first. I need to be able to mentally prepare for that shit. If you're dying, please let me know. I probably can't do anything about it, but I just want to know. Let's end our poll here with 74% of you saying the based atheist over the woke Christian. I don't know what to tell you. If you would prefer a woke ass person, period, over me, I don't know. Yeah, they're gaying each other up. They're still gaying each other. You got to fix
protections against the state. But if that's not the case, then I don't know what you're appealing to.
Well, the thing is, I would be more likely to have a system that basically offered healing for them first.
Okay, and then if it doesn't work, then what? That's the question. If all these shame tactics, if all these social tactics don't work and people are still gaying it up, under your worldview, what should the state do? And if you say nothing, then why? Why should the state not enforce this particular Christian view? There might be a good answer, but it's definitely a good question. I said, how do you know exactly how much homosexuals? It doesn't. You don't have to know anything. Quality's heading out. Thank you. So very much for stopping by. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much gayness is happening. If you are caught being gay, and that's against the law, then there has to be a consequence. Otherwise, it's not against the law. You know what I mean? What do we got here, Zabi? There's a bit of a... Okay, well, that's 40 minutes long, so we can't watch that right now.
Basically offered healing for them, first and foremost.
Sure.
Punishment.
But the question is fundamentally...
Punishment. Hold on.
Fundamentally,
you're asking about punishment.
If all other avenues have been...
Actually, since we were both here, I would appreciate not sending people away from the stream. There's already only 4 people left. When you drop links, people can click that link and go away from here and over there. That's the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing.
Been exhausted. Do you see it as morally wrong
and
for
drop
the
it in the fucking Discord, man? Come on.
Let's say throw homosexuals in prison or punish homosexuals by law.
I mean, homosexual behavior can always be a means of demonstrating love and affection if you're gay. That's kind of the point.
Let's say throw homosexuals in prison or punish homosexuals by law.
Just if they found out that they were living somewhere and doing these things?
Yeah. Right. And all other avenues have been exhausted.
That you couldn't stop them? No, I would excommunicate them. I wouldn't even need to throw them in jail. What
does that mean? Explain to me what excommunication in 2025 means. What do you mean? You debank them, or what does that mean?
What does excommunicate mean? A country.
Well, you don't need to jail them to get them out of your town, do you?
Sure, but why I'm asking you, what does that mean practically? Like kick them out of the country?
Deportation, revocation of citizenship.
Yeah. Well, what are you talking about at a federal?
So you're saying, okay, homosexuality is wrong, but I don't want the state to do anything. But if the state does do something, or excuse me, I don't want the state to do anything, but the people should do something and shame them. But if that doesn't work, then we deport them? What? Deport the gays. That'll go over well.
Well,
Jesus.
Deportation, revocation of citizenship.
Yeah. Well, what are you talking about at a federal level or at a town level? I mean, what are we talking
about? Either way, but through the use of the state. So this could be state.
Let's say state or local, because they tend to do criminal stuff.
No, I wouldn't put a strict threshold on the use of force. Now, the case by case, it would have to be examined. And I just want you to let you know that the distinction between the church and the state would maintain that they would work together. And so something like that could actually be I'm not sure. I don't know what it would look like that all avenues are you tried everything else, because from my view,
it just looks like whatever can be done was done, and the gays are still gaying. That's what it is.
the work of Christianity changes people.
This comes from a false belief that you can just get rid of homosexuality. Like, absolutely, we can get rid of the degree to which they have it in media and all that stuff, and how much socially it's acceptable. But to think that you can just get rid of it is silly. At least in our lifetime. Maybe if you believe that it really is completely socially influenced, then in another 3 generations, maybe we can get rid of it. But that's not a realistic thing to say.
So
if all avenues haven't been exhausted, but let's say like the country to the north of us, they're also a Christian nation, and they decide to do that, and they exhausted maybe a fair amount of avenues, would you see it as a wrong, as something wrong for them to do that,
or even undesirable?
It is, separation of church and state, freedom of religion. Nah, screw that, says Jimbob. Zuby said gay is a religion. So what now, Chud? There you go. They did this shit to Baptists and Mormons. You can get rid of freedom and liberty. Not sure it's worth the cost. Dilly to that, sir. Where are you going with this? And why? Why are you making me agree with progressives? Be better.
Would you see it as a wrong, as something wrong for them to do that,
or even undesirable, or not optimal?
Would you see it as wrong for?
I don't think it'd be optimal. I would take Adam's approach. I would try to find.
But you don't find it morally wrong for the states to imprison homosexuals.
That's the 3rd time he's had to ask the question.
Sexuals for engaging in gay behavior. You don't find that morally wrong or ethically wrong?
No, not necessarily. No.
And to be clear, like, this is not a gotcha question. I think we're trying to get at.
Wait, hold on. Under a progressive view, do you?
Yes.
Why is it wrong if it's just a preference, though?
Wait, what? I thought we were just talking about being gay.
This is not a gotcha.
Morally rates to imprison homosexuals for engaging in gay behavior. You don't find that morally wrong or ethically wrong?
No, not necessarily.
Oh, okay. I was spinned around. So he's like, yeah, lock up the gays, no problem.
I know.
And to be clear, like, this is not a gotcha question. I think we're trying to get at.
Wait, hold on. Under a progressive view, do you?
Yes.
Why is it wrong if it's just a preference, though?
How
are your preferences wrong?
It's wrong for the state.
Yeah, because preferences, we should lock people up for preference. So anybody who likes chocolate ice cream, it's a preference. Why wouldn't we lock you up for liking chocolate ice cream? What are you even saying?
There's a preference, though.
How are your preferences? Exactly.
It's wrong for the state because it works against the interest of the gay individual.
No, it works against no. Listen to what you just said. You just said it works against the interest of the individual in a society that mostly.
But you're attempting to maximize.
Hold on a second, dude. No, hold on a second. If you're
he does not have the point to be this area. Well, whatever he's going to say, I'm betting is not strong enough.
Hold on a second, dude. No, hold on a second. If you're appealing right now, you're appealing to the minority to make rules for the exception of the.
No, appealing to the individual liberty. Individual liberty, not the minority, the individual. Different things. Yeah, Zippy said, this is why religion should be banned. I don't think it should be banned. I just think it should go, it should find its rightful place in mythology. I said, women have no choice either, but I don't want to think about red carpet. Fair enough. If you do not want the gays to be free, then you should not be free. After all, praying in public is a sin, more or less. If only they followed their own bullshit.
Appealing right now, you're appealing to the minority to make rules for the exception of the behaviors, right? You're trying to protect the exception of the behavior.
No, because you're using an axiom that it's something that needs to be protected or as opposed to just a natural state
behavior. And you're saying, well, it goes against these 2 dudes who are living in a Christian culture.
You can make this exact argument for redheads. Well, you're making it's for minorities that you can't lock people up for being a redhead. Like, that's just my preference. Exactly. You don't have to date a redhead if you don't want to date a redhead. Why are we throwing them in jail? You don't have to fuck dudes if you don't want to fuck dudes. Why are we throwing them in jail? Because God said so. And that's so much different than the scientists, the experts, the leftist leaders said so. You're so different, guys.
It goes against these two dudes who are living in a Christian culture, right? Who are maintaining their behaviors, right? And you're saying, well, it would be wrong because it's violating XYZ. And yet you don't see from your own perspective, by the way, not even mine, that are the gay couple in this instance causing disharmony, as Adam would call it?
No, not according to them. You're only seeing it that way because of your views on marriage and sexuality. They don't have those views. Shout out to Sam Willard. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So I have not lately seen Christians persecuting anyone. All good. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Well, I mean, try being an atheist and you'll see it all over the place. See, because I feel they forget how much of degeneracy is funded by the state. Yep. Guys, and it's not about dicks and buttholes. It's about love and affection. Like, duh. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. Call me stupid or degenerate or whatever you want, but that's what I believe.
Are the gay couple in this instance causing disharmony, as Adam would call it? Are they causing disharmony among the
all else
Christian
held equal?
culture?
It's probably amoral. Like, it's not moral, immoral.
I didn't ask that, Adam.
But no,
I didn't
what's
ask that.
causing disharmony here is the ideology of the society that is attempting to jail
Wrong.
or punish gay
No,
people.
it's opposite. It's the
No,
opposite.
that is exactly what it is. You
No,
would
it's the opposite.
What progressivism is attempting to do is rectify it in a way
It's to appeal to the minority.
that maximizes the interests of all the
It doesn't maximize the interests of Christianity, dude. How does that
It maximizes the interests without being a detriment to the
How
interests.
does that?
Exactly. So it doesn't make my ideology better. Therefore, it's wrong. That's the problem with your fucking ideology. Because they're saying the exact same thing, except these two dudes particularly are not going that far. So you're the woke one here. Jimbob is the woke one.
That
Common
maximize
interest.
Christian interests.
Yeah,
And
common
hold on.
interest.
How
And
does
creating a society.
Evan, can I add real quick?
how does it maximize the interest of Christian people?
You would acknowledge that a society that is just, I would say, like accepting of gay people is a more harmonious society.
No.
that is 99% Christian.
I don't appeal to harmony, bro. That's a
I
feeling.
know, but you're.
That's not what he asked you. That's not what he asked you. You don't have to appeal to harmony, but he asked you about harmony.
99% Christian.
I don't appeal to harmony, bro. That's a
I
feeling.
know, but you're.
So then the answer would be yes, it is more harmonious, but I personally don't care about harmony.
But you're questioning our worldview.
Yeah,
I'm saying-
you
I'm
can't
saying-
define harmony, bro.
but I'm saying what
Okay, define God.
would be the most harmonious.
You
would
can't
be-
even measure
would
what
just-
harmony
would just
is.
Simply be a way.
You can't measure what God is.
You can't tell me even how to measure harmony.
You can't tell me what God is.
It's a fancy word. You don't even know what you're
Removing
saying.
social, cultural, political, and economic obstacles such that you're maximizing synergy within society and people's
not
roles
going
in
to be a
society.
More. What did I say in my opening? Platitudes upon platitudes, bumper stickers, multiplying, feeling good. You guys can't give me one metric for what's harmony and what's not.
Can
Well,
you?
Adam, let me add real quick. Just so you guys understand. Being gay itself, it's not something that you're born with, okay? And even if you wanted to take the naturalistic approach, we can get into that. But being gay itself, the way we would see it is the same way as when someone watches porn or when incest is occurring, right, between a dad and a daughter. It's a desire. It's a perversion of the flesh. It's something that they can control. And even if you were to say, hey, I believe incest is wrong and we should punish that, I would ask you why. You would say, well, it's because they're acting on something that even if they are intrinsically born with that they want to act on it, we would still set duties in place to remove that from society as a norm, correct?
In order to remove like what, pedophilia?
So like incest, like would you guys allow like a 45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter?
Because you have exploitative. There would be exploitative.
How about posthumous sex with a corpse if there was consent? How about posthumous?
How do you have consent if you're not alive? Posthumous means after you're dead. You can't give consent if you're dead, you fucking moron.
Exploitative.
How about posthumous sex with a corpse if there was consent? How about posthumous sex with a corpse if the grandma Mildred signed a waiver and said, after I'm dead, people can pay?
Then, hey, grandma wants to get it in. Grandma wants to get it in. Who are you to say? Who are you to say no?
to have harmless.
I think personally it's disgusting. But I don't want the state determining what is and is not disgusting.
Sex with my body. Do you jail the company that starts that? Yes or no?
Going back
I
to
think
what you
that-
said, I think there'd be a lot more of social pressure than, and the legal question would you have to
Would
iron
you
out
use
like the
force?
specifics there.
Would you use
I don't,
force to
I don't
stop
think that, because
illegally?
I think that
Look-
profit seeking can be predatory, and in that sense, it would be predatory. In
No,
the
no.
sense
If they consented, it's not predatory, dude.
But people who have
See, that's the thing about being, not having to try to play for a team and not trying to hold up that team and just talk like, yeah, I think it's fucking weird as shit. Do I think there should be a law that you can't fuck dead people who want to be fucked when they're dead? Why the fuck would I care? Why do I care? If your grandma wants her body to be desecrated, who the fuck am I to tell her she can't do that? I agree with you. It's weird and disgusting. But what is that? Where's my authority to say no come from?
a state.
How is consent predatory? How is consent predatory?
People consent to predatory things all the
I care because of disease? Explain. Say more on this.
time. Like, for example,
How is it Grandma Mildred who says, guys, when I'm dead,
predatory because based on whatever.
See, again, this is a situation where they don't want to get caught saying that, oh, well, you can fuck dead people. But you're specifically saying this woman wants this thing. If I'm the progressives here, I'd be like, what is the reason you would say no? And I mean, Sam, you're talking about disease, but you realize that you are much more likely to get a sexually transmitted disease from somebody who's living than somebody who's dead. Again, I mean, I'm not getting a disease. I'm not fucking a dead grandma. I'm not doing that. That's nasty. Who the fuck would want to do that? But if you want to do that, then either way, disease is a you problem. Whatever it is, if she consented and he consented, give me the reason why it should not be allowed. Give me the reason it should not be allowed, and I will change my mind. Go ahead.
Mildred, who says, guys, when I'm dead,
predatory because
See,
based on whatever.
They're talking about, well, this is why it shouldn't be done because of that. So you don't have these principles. You just take whatever you feel about whatever issue and you say, this is what's right because I feel that way. If you had consistent principles, the truth is not always pretty. The truth is the most liberty that anybody can have is the ability to decide what happens with their body. If you want to do gross shit with your body, that is that is your choice. As long as you're not impeding on anybody else, then all good. If she has Ebola and you still fuck her, that's your fucking problem. I don't really know how. I'm pretty sure Ebola is a virus. So if she died, then it wouldn't be Ebola anymore. But exactly, let Darwin call his people home. Let the weird fucking people. Okay, but they sign a waiver that says this person is dead. You do not know what exactly is going to come with this. You may get something from the bacteria, and she might have Ebola. Dude signs on the dotted line. What is the legal reason why that should not be allowed? Zibby said, liberty and freedom stops at the will and liberty of another. That's it. That's it. That's what's called a fucking principle. And if you, the general you, if someone, rather, can't separate the fact that I personally wouldn't do that with I don't have a legal reason to stop that, I don't know what to tell you. I said, Utah, the highest percentage of internet P-Hub usage, antidepressants, self-deletion, and sugar consumption. Damn. Them Mormons. Them Mormons. Huh? Zippy said most people won't do kinky shit. They are too busy with work and family. Right. Yeah. So we don't exactly why we have this, and then we have the social shame that he was talking about. Most people aren't going to want to fuck a Mildred when she's dead. But if they do, and she's fine with it, what is the legal reason why it should not be allowed. Those LDS motherfuckers. Sam said, any man that actually wants more than one. Oh, so we're just gonna. Okay, all right. So are you're cool with the with Mildred now? You're just dropping that and moving on to more wives or what? It's so cute how you guys will just say something and be like, he's got a good point. I'm just going to pretend I didn't ever say that.
Whatever the profit-seeking company does in order to
fine, it's free.
Create a
it's free now. It's free now.
This is what it would do. Is it's
free now. Did you hear me?
It's free. It's now free. There's no profit incentive. It is just two people, prior consent from the will and active consent from the live person. What is the legal reason why that should not be allowed? The legal reason. We all agree that that's disgusting and gross and not something any of us would want to do. What is the legal reason?
It's free now.
Profit with the profit.
Ruh-roh. I just said it's free. Forget profit. It's free. Grandma says, I am signing this waiver. People can have sex with my body after I'm dead. Free.
In a vacuous sense,
would you let
is that easy? He's truly trying to represent Christ by shutting the fuck up.
Yeah, so you have
in a vacuum.
Got you. So society.
Yes, there you go. So we eventually got there. Guys, just stand on fucking business. Sometimes things are weird. That's how the world works. That doesn't mean you have to do the weird shit. It just means that if you believe the government's role is not to be in people's lives to the degree it is, then yeah, if a dead bitch is like, yeah, fuck my dead body, and dude is like, oh, I want to fuck a dead body, I can sign here saying that, any diseases I have are on me. What is the legal reason why that should not be allowed? Medicine laws are proposed in the first place. Yeah, I mean, I agree. But so you concede about Mildred? That's what I'm asking you about. I said I preferred to be a side chick, Sam, because I was lazy and introverted. Take him for the bulk of the time, cook, clean, etc. I'll fuck him while you're busy doing that. Don't they all? Don't they all? So if you try and codify all morals and law, you wind up with no law. Exactly. Just stand on your fucking business, and it'll all come out in the wash. I know you're not accusing me of a straw man, the person who's dodging questions, right?
Like you two find it that you're arguing today that it's a better society so long as nobody was harmed and nobody was
I've said in the beginning that I don't put hedonism as the end goal. I don't think hedonism in and of itself
I didn't ask for
projection. If I was a Christian, I would be so mad at these two, mainly Jimbob. I would be so mad for looking this bad in front of progressives. Shout out to Mighty Sarlacc. Welcome to the party. Yeah, what's the legal reason I can't off myself when I'm too old to want to be alive anymore? My body, my choice, right? My body, my choice. Usury can be a rabbit hole, but that falls in fraud and coercion. Yep.
Was
I've said in the beginning that I don't put hedonism as the end goal. I don't think hedonism in and of itself.
I didn't ask for an end goal, dude. I asked if it's permitted and would you use force to stop people from having sex with Grandma Mildred?
Well, in terms of force,
Grandma Mildred's trying to get stuck. Why do we care? With this dead bitch she's dead and she says she already wants this. I don't understand why either side has an issue with this legally. Of course it's disgusting. Of course it's gross. Of course it's weird. Legally, what is the reason?
Use force to stop people from having sex with Grandma Mildred.
Well, in terms of force, that's always going to be an empirical question. Like we would say that like lying is wrong, but we don't necessarily want to use the state to prevent people from lying all the time unless
or having sex with Grandma Mildred.
Contract or like cheating is wrong.
Assuming that Grandma Mildred doesn't want to be fucked posthumously.
but we don't necessarily enforce that.
Is it wrong to have sex with Mildred, Grandma Mildred?
I think
no. Assuming you have her consent and you understand how fucking weird that is, and you do that anyway, even if you don't understand how weird it is. But either way, legally, no. I'm sorry. This is not the gotcha argument that it is. It's only working as such because these two fucking betas won't stand on business and actually say what they believe.
That there's something psychological.
Definitely indicative of some serious psychological issue. I'll say that much.
What's wrong with that?
If you associate your sexual...
I thought you guys want to be inclusive, right? Adam, you don't include psychologically.
We want to make sure people are psychologically healthy, and I don't think being attracted to corpses is psychologically healthy.
They have preferences.
And those preferences can be shaped by their environment, which is why we want to create an environment that does not create this.
Let me push back on that, Adam.
Adam,
real quick. You did say that being gay is amoral, correct?
Engaging in gay sex, I said, is amoral.
There's no
amoral.
such
thing. So it's not within the purview of morality, right?
In a vacuum, yeah.
It's within the purview. It's just not.
I'm sure you could add things to the hypothetical that would.
Yeah. That's a good super chat. So Jimbob doesn't get it. We can't say necrophilia is bad because the devil's in the detail. Oh, wait. I'm going to do that one. That's a funny super chat. That's a funny super chat. Speaking of which, we just hit the 3-hour mark. If you'd like to keep on raging, No,
but I'll put it this way, right? So like if I'm amoral about like this headphone case right here, I'm amoral about it. What I'm saying is that there's no moral judgment that we ought to make about this one case. So therefore, if you guys were to take a default position saying that there's this thing isn't moral or immoral or whatever, and I have a view that it is immoral, all I have to do is take a moral position to already outweigh your amoral position. So if I say I don't...
Well, real quick, Mighty Starlock, a very important part of this, which we agree is weird, but we're talking about the legality, is that Grandma Mildred signed in her will that she wants to get fucked after she dies. She wants that. So she has consented to this. Doesn't make it less weird. Makes it more legal.
So this thing isn't moral or immoral or whatever, and I have a view that it is immoral. All I have to do is take a moral position to already outweigh your amoral position. So if I say I don't want to give this headphone case a set of rights, you would really have no contention because it's amoral. It's outside of the purview of morality.
Right.
Okay. What do you mean outweigh? Because the initial question was about the use of force.
Now you're talking about removing rights, which is another variable.
No,
We're
because
saying gay,
what I'm saying,
this is important. Gay
Grandma's
sex,
a dead object. Grandma's a dead object.
You're saying gay sex in and of itself is a...
Grandma was alive and gave consent before she died, according to your example. Yeah, let it be known that the Christians brought up fucking dead grandmas, not the well, I don't know if they're atheists, but not the progressives. Let it be known. Not that I'm trying to cope and fucking whatever for progressives, but let it be known that the Christian was the one that brought up fucking a dead grandma. So he said, why are you imposing your goddamn morals on others? That's how Christians got screwed over in the first place. Yeah, right. When the like I always say, when the Islamists come, you, and you will be considered part of the secular world. Money said, sure, it cracks me up. The hypothetical that it, yeah, it's out there. It's definitely out there, but it proves the point in so many different ways that if you have principles, this stuff isn't difficult. The principles that I have are mainly about the non-aggression principle when it comes to sex, the consent of both parties. It doesn't need to be this super complicated thing. Again, it's weird as fuck. I would never want to be by anybody who would ever even consider that. Legally, though, I don't think. Let's say, what's another weird thing that people could do? Let's say that you love, let's say you're Quentin Tarantino and you love licking dead women's feet. If we have the same situation, what is the legal reason that the state should get involved in that? As opposed to all of us just be like, yo, that's so fucking weird. Don't do that, or nobody will ever talk to you again. Why do we need the state? Why do we need the state? It's not cheating if we both, me and the wife, know where we stand. We got along well with each other. There you go. Shout out to Master Maverick. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. So the atheists condone dead grandma activity. Assuming, well, wait, I meant to do that. Assuming she's given consent. That doesn't mean it's not weird. Unless you have a legal reason why somebody who gives consent to be fucked after they're dead and somebody consents to fuck a dead person that could potentially get diseases or whatever, if both are okay with that, what is the legal reason that should be illegal? Moral anti-realism equals condoning. Yeah, come in halfway and act like you know everything. Sure, bro.
Grandma's a dead object. Grandma's a dead object.
Because you're saying, wait, gay sex in and of itself is immoral. Now you're asking the question: is it immoral for me to take away the rights of gay people? Of course, we find that immoral. That's a totally different question.
No. Hey, shout out to Ty Cobb, keeping the party raging with another $2. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much. No question, no comment, just pure love of the puppy. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Immoral for me to take away the rights of gay people. Of course, we find that immoral. That's a totally different question.
No. Well, that's what we're discussing, Maverick. What would be the legal reason why it shouldn't be allowed? If you can get diseases from smoking, right? You can get diseases from having sex with live people, right? So should we make those things illegal? What is the legal reason to make that situation where Grandma Mildred has already given consent to be fucked after she's dead? As weird as that is, as weird as I see that to be, as much as I would never, ever, ever want to do that, some fucking weirdo does. She's already given consent. He's given consent. What is the legal reason why that should not be allowed? That's all I'm asking. It's just the same question. So I'm moral. I have my own moral discipline. Good for you. So he says, by pushing them out, by not selling them stuff, by shaming them, do you understand what you are fucking doing to the gays? You can get diseases just going to the store. Yep. Master Maverick said psychologically deranged will lead to further and more heinous deranged activity. So will group sex. Should we make group sex illegal? So we see that bad thing can happen, therefore should be illegal, is not a good argument, right?
And it's
No.
variable.
What I'm showing you is that you're taking an amoral position, and then you're letting this amoral position disrupt the flow of society.
Right.
How would two gay people having sex in private disrupt society?
Gay people
How would a
sex, Adam.
45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter disrupt the flow of society?
The disruption is our society having an ideology that is predicated on caring about stuff like
Also,
that.
do you think?
Sure. So Master Maverick said, obviously everything has a limit. For example, age of consent. Agreed. There's a legal reason why you should not be able to consent to things before a certain age, because your brain is not developed enough to understand all the things that come with that decision. That is the legal reason why we should have an age of consent. What is the legal reason why it should be illegal for two consenting adults to have sex? That is what we are discussing. Because, hey, how much more gross as a Christian is it for a dude to be fucking a live dude versus a dead woman? That's y'all's worldview. I mean, Zippy said they push them out of society. No buying stuff, no travel, can't own anything because they cannot buy or rent. How do they think things are going to play out? Who's they? Who are we talking about? Are you saying they want to do this with gays, push gays out of society? He was down to deport gay people because they were gay. That's insane. That's insane. I could totally understand, being Christian and not being for homosexuality in any regard, but deporting people out of the country that have never lived anywhere else because they're gay, that is insane.
An ideology that is predicated on caring about stuff like that.
Also, do you think that the impact on society is equal between a gay?
Okay, so we already did this. There's other things that are psychologically deranged and cause disease, like smoking or having group sex. Should those things be illegal? should smoking cigarettes and or group sex be illegal? Master Maverick, that is a yes or no question directly to you. Zibby said age of consent should be 30. People are dumbasses these days. I've been saying 25, and I'm not even, mad about it. 25, I think that's a sweet spot, especially since millennials have arrested development. You know, an 18-year-old Gen Xer is not the same thing as an 18-year-old millennial, and I can say that as a millennial. Mighty Starlock said we can also say it's gross for an 80-year-old to have 80-year-old having sex with a 21-year-old, but both are consenting adults.
Bingo.
Yep. And I don't again, I understand, like, again, I'm not telling people that it's nice or fun and things that they should do to go fuck dead grandmas. That's not what we're doing here. And if you can't take yourself out of the emotional, ew, that's yucky, then you're not smart enough to have this discussion. It is an intellectual discussion. If you can't take your emotions out of it, then I can't help you. So I'll bring that up when you answer my question. So again, the question was, should smoking cigarettes and group sex be illegal? I said, if you think you're going to cause harm to another, think twice. Well, I mean, if you think once and you think you're going to harm somebody, you probably shouldn't do that. But yeah, definitely think twice on it if you need to.
On caring about stuff like
also,
that.
do you think that the impact on society is equal between a gay consenting couple and like an old dad and his young daughter, that they're all else held equal, that these are having the exact same types of impact on society?
Yeah, would you say that
foundationally?
Wait, what was that?
Ideology that is predicated on caring about stuff like
also,
that.
do you think that the impact on society is equal between a gay consenting couple and like an old dad and his young daughter, that they're all else held equal, that these are having the exact same types of impact on society?
Yeah, would you say that?
What?
That's the same thing. Yeah. You're normal.
Foundationally, it all comes to perversion of the flesh. So you're the only justification you guys can give.
Okay, so is it the same thing as getting a tattoo then? So fucking a dead grandma and fucking a dude's butt and getting a tattoo, they're all the perversion of the flesh. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
What?
Dogma scrambles your fucking brains. Dogma scrambles your fucking brains. Their dogma scrambled their brains, and their dogma scrambled their brains. Dogma scrambles your brains. So do we get an actual answer? Okay, we got an actual answer. Master Maverick said the reason why it should not be allowed is because it damages an individual's sovereignty, and once they have passed, they can no longer consent. We've already established they have given consent before. In the will, it says, I would like to be fucked after I am dead. So again, you've misunderstood the situation. Both gave consent. What is the legal justification? Tattoos, smoking, group sex are not. Okay. If you think group sex is a totally no. The tattoo thing was about perversion of the flesh. I didn't say that was psychologically deranged. I mean, I'm fucking tatted up. Yeah, I'll see that. But I don't really, I don't really see how you can say smoking doesn't cause disease and group sex is not psychologically deranged. I mean, maybe we just have to agree to disagree. But I said I don't want to engage in group coitus. I want to fuck my man strictly missionary style by ourselves. As most do. As most do. There you go. Yeah. What's the oh. That's such a great point. What's the difference between being an organ donor and being Grandma Mildred? They cannot be fucked out of death, so they no longer possess the body, but the body still should be shown enough respect not to be defiled. Okay, why? So yeah, let's go back to donating organs then. Because the body's dead, right? So is it anti-Christian to be an organ donor?
Foundationally, it all comes to perversion of the flesh. So you're the only justification you guys can give us is that it just feels good as to why one ought to be gay.
And degenerative too. It degenerates against a fabric, right? So incest produces degenerative. It's degenerative. It not only perverts, like Eazy said,
what is
what you're doing. Degenerative means like in this case it would be biological. You could say it degenerates. It's actually biological degeneration to procreate with your own family, but it also perverts, right? And so, but also Adam said, hold on a second. Adam also said sex between men. You guys are evolution proponents. I feel like that's just in the basket with.
How do you know? Have you been fucking grandmas, bro? How do you know? I would assume if somebody's signing a waiver to go fuck a dead grandma that they're about it. Maybe you and I don't want that. Oh, well, let me not speak for you. I don't want that. But explain to me how that is the case. Again, when it comes down to it, it's just your feelings. It's icky to you. And so you don't like it. I think it's icky too. That doesn't give us a legal justification. I could say the same thing to you, bro. Come on. You're just saying your feelings. Objectively, organ donation can enhance. I agree that organ donation is way more beneficial than having sex. I never made the argument that organ donation was less life enhancing. What I said is that they both can enhance somebody's life. You said it doesn't enhance someone's life. How do you know that? How do you know that's, let's say it's somebody who's disabled and is a 40-year-old virgin and is, too embarrassed to go get a hooker or whatever, and their life changes dramatically after Grandma Mildred. You're just making emotional arguments, and I agree with the emotions. I agree with you. It's fucking gross, dude. I agree with you. I'm asking for a legal reason, and you are not giving it.
With progressivism, are you?
Sure, I feel like you didn't answer my question.
What's your question?
You used the word degenerate in your definition of degeneracy, so I'm asking you, what is degenerate?
Exactly. Just like organ donation can only have benefit to the person that gets the organs. So again, I ask you, what is the difference? What is the straw man? What is the straw man? And then you, yeah, all right. You changed the point. So I guess, well, okay, I'll read it first. You changed the point. You first said consent for after death. Now it's about enhancing someone else's life. Projection. Thank you for the assist, Mighty Starlock. It sounds like you, sir, are the one constructing a straw man and knocking it down. Organ benefit, i.e. getting a new kidney, can benefit a person objectively noticeably. Okay. And then? No, it can't. Does that mean it can't enhance somebody's life? I don't know. I've never been in the position where I've wanted to fuck a dead grandma, but you seem very, very well versed in this area. This is a straw man. I never said having sex with Grandma Mildred is the same thing as organ donation. We said it was the same concept because you were talking about consent. And you can, once you're dead, you can consent to giving your organs by being an organ donor before you die. So I'm asking you, what is the principal difference between that and donating your vagina? Oh, honey, sweetie, baby. Oh, honey. Oh, honey. You can objectively prove boning grandma's beneficial. We can't objectively. That's not true, dude. That's not true. Let's say I'm going to off myself tonight unless I get to fuck Grandma Mildred. Is being dead objectively better for humans? Or is it objectively better for humans to be alive? Projection. You're the one who's not understanding, my friend. And we're going to move on because you don't get it. Watch it back. Watch the tape back and do it 3 or 4 times. And if you still don't understand, come into the Discord and we can talk about it. But I've explained this 7 different times, and you're still saying the same thing over and over and over and over. We're coming up on the 3.5 hour mark, so I don't want to waste anybody else's time.
What's your question?
You use the word degenerate in your definition of degeneracy. So I'm asking you, what does degeneracy mean?
So away from, let's say, away from God, away from commands, away from
morals,
away from the fabric that we hold normatively speaking. So even if you had a normative position, said this is the fabric of how we do things, acting away from that fabric would be degenerative.
And how would you know?
Bro, what are you saying? Another straw man that doesn't even make sense.
Whether or not it's acting away from it. Is it based on
Inversion? If it's inversion, for instance, Adam, hold on, I'm explaining. You have to let me answer. Adam said two guys having sex. That's actually inversion and degenerative. Why? Because you have to lie about what sex.
Projection 3, a three-peat. Woo-wee. Yep, I'm just too dumb. You're so smart, bro. You're so smart. Oh, my feet hurt, so I'm just smart, man.
Is to even say the term two dudes having sex.
Can you define what inversion means? What do you, sorry,
you're flipping something you're flipping something that has a positive established definition, and you're selling.
Leave it? What do you mean you're leaving?
A counterfeit of the definition. Sex cannot. You're selling it. Yeah, you're selling that men can have sex. They can't have sex.
You think that?
Are you saying, like, specifically speaking, you wouldn't call it sex?
Yeah, it's a perversion to call it sex.
Are you saying that sex is necessarily defined?
Digital.
You can call it like fun time or something. I don't know what the point is.
No, sex. Define sex. Define sex, please. The act.
Honestly, I don't know what
P and G or BH.
What a clear definition would be.
What's the define?
Yeah, it would have to do something with satisfying sexual reproductive organs and you have some sort of, I guess, rudimentary flesh desire, and it would be mighty. Stop. All right, we're just too dumb. All right, Master Maverick is a fucking genius here, and he's just putting us all to shame with dunking on us. You gotta give it to him. You gotta give it to him. He said it's icky and I don't like it, therefore. I mean, you can't argue with that. You can't argue with my Fifi said no. Productive organs and you have some sort of, I guess, rudimentary flesh desire, and it would be doing that with a consenting adult.
What about an object?
I don't know. I guess
you don't have an issue with an object. Why are you? I don't understand. These fucking progressives just stand on your fucking business. You never heard of a fleshlight? You never heard of dildo? You have no problem with those things. You have no problem with those things. That's what an object means. That's what we're talking about. Adult.
What about an object?
Yeah, there you go. Now you're learning. One day maybe we'll be as smart as Master Maverick. But right now, I mean, all we can do is just bow in the shadow of his greatness. Maybe one day. Flesh desire, and it would be doing that with. I agree. Your straw man was not that good. The consenting adult.
What about an object?
I don't know. I guess it may be
masturbation. I feel like. I mean,
that's masturbation. So is masturbation sex or is it masturbation?
It's masturbation.
Okay, so is sodomy between a man and a man mutual masturbation or sex?
Whatever, I don't think I would. Whatever you want to call it. I don't think the definition. I'm not willing to die on the hill of what I specifically want to define. Two dudes having butt sex. Whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it mutual masturbation, fine. And then mutual masturbation between two dudes is not something that should be illegal. If you want to call it sex, you want to call it gay sex, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is not and shouldn't be illegal.
Why does it matter which of those it is?
Exactly. Why does it matter? Ty said, I don't know how they swerve from gun control to incest to group sex to necrophilia. That's stupid. It's because Jimbob is trying to trap them in a thing, and they are just smart enough not to fall for the traps. That's why this is not a discussion. This is a true debate in the sense that the people here are not interested in understanding each other or convincing each other of anything. They are interested in winning. They're interested in winning the people who are watching like us. And that's fine. That's great. I'm going to DebateCon and I'm all for it. And when I am there, I am not going to be interested in convincing anybody of anything. I'm going to be interested in showing other people the way that I think and the way that I feel about things. But let's not pretend that this is a discussion. It's a good faith debate. They seem to be, doesn't seem to be, anything wrong with it on that end. But that's what it is.
Masturbation or sex?
Why does it matter which of those it is?
He asked about degenerate, right?
It would be sex. I'm curious as to.
So, but either way, so if it's sex, then that sex is not degeneracy. If it's mutual masturbation, then that also is not degeneracy. So it's irrelevant. It's a moot point.
Oh, okay, so can I have sex with a Nintendo cartridge?
You want, bro? If it'll fit. Hey, yo! If you could fit in a Nintendo cartridge, bro, like, god damn. And again, the entire conversation has been about sex. And who's been driving the conversation? The Christians. I mean, it speaks for itself. If you get it, you get it. If not, I don't know what to tell you.
The Nintendo cartridge?
I guess.
Okay, great.
Hold
on. He's like, wait, not me. I definitely couldn't do that for sure.
Colloquially, though, I would say why are you fucking?
No.
Exactly. Personally, I'd be like, hey, that's fucking weird. But legally, would I want the state to come in and arrest you for fucking a Nintendo cartridge? No. Why would that even be a thing that you're thinking about?
If you can have sex, biological, like you're speaking, if you can have sex with a Nintendo cartridge, then you should be able to teach kids in sexual education that that's sex. Are you willing to teach kids that putting their dick in a Nintendo set is sex? Yes or no?
No, because that would be degenerate. That is outside of the natural desires of the sexuality. And so, well, it may feel good. We all seen American Pie, and he fucked the pie, and he fucked the other thing, whatever. You're conflating what is legal and what is normal. Not the same thing. Not the same thing.
Are you willing to teach kids that putting their dick in a Nintendo set is sex? Yes or no?
I feel as though sex would require more than one person to be involved in the acts, and that'd be the distinction between masturbation and sex.
Yeah, exactly. That's what when I was talking about fleshlights and dildos with an object, that would be masturbation.
Right.
Just really quickly. We are going to read out some super chats, and then I just want to keep this going because I think this is good. And by the way, guys, sign up to Jimbob's gaming channel.
All right. If anybody wants to keep the party raging, let's go. Once he reads these super chats,
I hope the Nintendo cartridge thing was hypothetical because
that's that shit. Me too.
Well, no, Adam. There are people called object sexuals. You know this, right?
Sure.
I'm sure you do, Jimbob.
Sure, it makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
shout out to How I Met Your Mother. It's like objectophilia. How do you know what that means? If you watch the show, you'd know what the fuck I was talking about. Go watch How I Met Your Mother. It's on Netflix right now.
That's a protected class. They have rights too, right? Let them fuck the bridge.
Yeah. So we're just going to read out a few.
No, because the bridge is in public. But if you get a small version of the bridge and bring it into your home, then there's no issue with masturbating with a bridge if that's what gets you off. Mighty Starlog said, Master Maverick, what was the argument? I didn't see an argument. I saw you saying it's deranged for a person to fuck a dead grandma, which we all agreed upon. I agree, says Mighty Starlog. But the point is, should it be illegal?
Super chats, guys. Then I'm going to keep this going. So, Zorchid for $5 says, Evan, is it possible for more progressive choice to be the worst? For the more progressive choice to be the worst choice?
Is it possible for the more progressive choice to not be the worst choice?
Within the given context or the given time of a particular society, I would say yes. I think at one point it was considered the progressive position to advocate eugenics, but that's I would say that's one of the great things about progressivism is we've adapted in accordance with recognizing that humans are actually more adaptable to their environments, and that the best way to resolve for things like poverty isn't to do eugenics against poor people. It's to actually create conditions that enable.
No, you mean like abortion. I'm sure you're in favor of that. Shout out to Ty Cobb. I'm in a pickle here. Because super chats keep the party raging. But Ty's saying go to bed. And of course, I treat for money. You lazy dog. What should I do? You know, it's quite simple. But unfortunately, I don't understand. I don't know what's subjective for different things. I'm never gonna know. One day, I hope I'm as smart as you. I hope, please. I hope I can be as smart as you. But he saw, like I said, Master Maverick. I said it's no different for consenting for something to be done to your body after death. Change around to a little child and you'll see it. We already see how sick it is, you fucking dumbass! That was okay. I'm not gonna get triggered. When they're just dumb enough, then you just move on. When they're too dumb, you just move on.
Isn't to do eugenics against poor people. It's to actually create conditions that enable them to get out of their circumstance.
But don't you agree? Don't you think it's a good path?
Exactly. It's almost like we've been consistent about this idea of consent.
Agree? Don't you think it's a good
Oh, I'm not being sarcastic. I really think you're stupid.
Path to take to, if someone's living a life and they are just absolutely at their worst in society, you know, their entire experience is terrible. You're saying, well, yeah, eugenesis is, take yourself out. It would be total.
Coming back with the Jonathan super chat. We don't hold human rights to be objective. Automatic Jimbob L.
Moral from your view, right? Or amoral from Adam's view, right?
Again, it would. I think this is sort of more reliant on whatever their psychological health is going to be.
This conversation would have gone so much better instead of you think this, right? You think that, right? You think this, right? Instead of doing that, if he would ask questions and then respond to the answers of the questions, instead of projecting what he sees from other progressives onto these two, this would have been easy. But when that wasn't working, he's trying to shove these guys into a box. And then they're not in that box. Then you got to go to the most fucking weird thing about fucking grandmas and Nintendos. Like, bro, what's going on with you? Who even thinks of that? We have the entire political spectrum to discuss. And you went for this. Because if we don't have God, Jimbob will fuck dead grandmas and Nintendo cartridges, apparently. Allegedly.
This is sort of more reliant on whatever their psychological health is going to be. Like, for example, yeah. And also,
guess my shoe size. You can't.
It really depends on what the implementation of allowing these things really looks like in society.
Okay.
If allowing means like social encouragement,
yeah,
that's going to be fundamentally different than like the state allowing. That's going to be fundamentally.
I understand. I'm just asking more of a principled question, Evan. The reason I ask that is people say people in horrible situations with pain or agony or even depression, maybe you would give them the allowance to make it legal to off themselves in some sort of fun, controlled way, like those weird delete pods in Switzerland. Now,
and Canada. Starlight said, who even thinks Jimbob is making a good point by these hypotheticals? I do. I think he is making good points because of the fact that they can't answer them properly. They got there eventually, but they are good questions to test the principle, and because it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable place to hold your principles. It's easy to hold your principles when it's the easy, fun, nice, acceptable thing to do. Having principles means holding on to them when it's not convenient. When it's like, fuck, I don't have a legal reason why that should be illegal. I can say it because it's icky and I don't like it, and I personally wouldn't do it, that it should be illegal, but that would not be principled. It's that simple. I said, stop saying fuck dead grandma for crying out loud. Okay, all right. Dilly to your grandma. We would definitely stay away from that. Again, blame it on the Christian, but I'm very sorry to hear. Dilly to your grandma, who we very much respect and hope is resting in peace. No more dead grandma.
If it's the case that you justify offing oneself based on torment and the elimination of torment, it's weird that you guys switch that up for the Troons people, because you say society has to
The Troons people.
change. If you were consistent, you'd say the people who are living a life and their identity is so incompatible with the society they're living in. Wouldn't there be nothing wrong with them self-deleting if it ends their suffering from your own view? Isn't that the consistent position?
I think
From a progressive point of view, yes.
ideally you'd want to end the suffering by changing like the way that they engage with society. If
You can't, bro. You can't. That is not an option that you have.
I think ideally you'd want to end the suffering by changing like the way that they engage with society. If someone has mental health issues that are making them want to get in one of those pods, I would say there's probably a lot more things, a lot more options society can exhaust in addressing that than just saying, yeah, go ahead and kill yourself.
But there wouldn't be anything wrong with it. I didn't say like whether or not there might be other options. I'm saying from your view,
My bad.
you might put that on the menu, right?
It may be wrong.
If someone has like a terminal
insofar as
illness or something, then yeah, again,
No,
it depends a lot.
Got him. Got him. Yeah, got me. Fuck that grandma. But not literally.
No. A
It's
trans
wrong.
person
It's-
who's
it's
like,
wrong.
I can't.
It's wrong.
All right, guys. We just passed the 3.5 hour mark. We can keep going. It is up to you guys. You know what to do. Otherwise, we are headed to the after
Insofar as it
party.
reflects a societal ill, I would say the ideal that progressivism strives for is to ensure that everybody, it's inclusive in that sense, that everybody is encouraged and is enabled to actually flourish in our society. And so if you have people that aren't flourishing, and if they choose
Not
to
everyone.
themselves,
Not everyone.
wrong, it's wrong in the sense that it's
All right, let me plow
fully
through these.
reflective.
Let me plow through these super chats real quickly, guys. So John Diner for $5 says we don't hold to human rights being objective. Automatic Jimbob L. There's a flurry of these Jimbob, so John Diner's going to actually call in, which will be fun.
Sure.
Christian Packard for $10 says, "For God did not send his son."
Was he in this chat? I know that name. At first I thought it was the dude that I debated. Was that his name? Christian Packard? Was that him? That wasn't him, right? It was a different. His name was Christian something else. But I think he's been in this chat.
Into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. Jimbob is trying to condemn people out of his town. Eazy is truly trying to represent Christ. Thank you.
Oh no, I'm doing
John
the same
Dinan.
thing.
John Dinan for 10.
But it's our luck. Thank you so much for stopping by. You have a fantastic night, brother.
Buck says Jimbob doesn't get it. We can't say necrophilia is bad because the devil is in the details. John Dinan for $5 says Jimbob L. He used tautology. Degeneracy is what degeneracy is. Ha ha ha. Do you want to respond to any of those three?
Yeah,
Jimbob?
I appreciate Evan correcting me. I may have used tautology. What I clarified as saying is that if there's a normative structure, a fabric of customs and behaviors, anything away from that we would consider degenerate, and that's a fair enough clarification. But thanks for pointing out the mistake tautology.
Beaten Cheeks $5 says, "Yo, check your Rumble chat. You don't need to read this super chat. Just head over to Rumble. YT censors the other platform. So stupid."
It's not just you guys. It's not just you
Thanks,
guys.
Beaten Cheeks. Good to see you in the chat. Every day I'm struggling for $5 says, "Hey Evan, what's
Every
the
day
ontology
I'm
of logic
struggling.
according to your
Every
worldview?"
day I'm struggling.
I'm not sure exactly what the question is. Could someone clarify the
Like the name-
ontology?
What you look like? What you look like?
What's the
Logic, like what-
nature
what-
of logic? Like, where does logic come from, and what is
I
logic?
think that logic, and this isn't something that's my expertise within philosophy, but I think that logic is broadly going to be our systematic review of empiricism and understanding how that actually functions, and our brain sort of like computing how that functions. So me saying, for example, that broadly when you have one thing and then another thing, it combines and makes two things, and like that's sort of just like a simple math.
I'm dying here. We are at 197 views, and I would kill to get 200, but I don't think anybody is coming through. So make sure you are a member and make sure you are joined. We will see the next super chat and then headed to the
example, but
I think he was asking.
I'm honestly not going to be great at explaining, and nor do I have a code.
Oh God! Ah, sorry, babe. That ain't gonna happen.
a comprehensive understanding of.
And I'm going to let you guys get into this. I'm just going to read out one more super chat, and then we're going to go for another 20 minutes or so you guys can talk about whatever comes to mind. But Justin Henley for $5 says, automatic Jimbob W, human rights don't exist. Point to the right. All comes down to force. Jake knows. Give a thumbs up, Jake. All right, guys. We're going to go for about 20 more minutes, and then we're going to
all right. Didn't even touch your fucking bone. You're going to make me look like an asshole, like you don't like this shit. No, I'm going to post pictures on the community tab. I promise you. He loves them, and you guys came through for me. So I think that was a very interesting way. I like the fact that it was Christianity and progressivism, because I'm, right in the middle of that, where I have, reverence for what Christianity can do. But I am clearly not a Christian. And then I also have very secular ideas that may align with the progressives, but I'm less of a progressive than I am of a Christian. Do I want to say that? I think that's a tough one. Which am I less like, a Christian or a progressive? I think I'm less like a progressive, but that's because Christians just have a better dogma, but dogma sucks. So get rid of your dogma, and the world will be amazing. So let's give a big shout out to the donations. Thank you to KFT, Ty Cobb with 2, 4, 6, 8 different dollars. And of course, the sponsor of the stream, Zippy DSM Lee. Thank you so very, very much. You guys mean everything to me. And giving him food. I mean, you guys know. Thank you so very, very much. I really appreciate the fact that you guys could be doing anything else in the world, but you are here with me. And like I've been saying, guys, that means so much. So I do hope that you joined the Discord. It is free to join. Link is at the top of the chat. If you want to become a member and head to the after party, I just dropped the link in there. It's only $2.99 a month. That's 12 after parties. We've been watching Severance. We just watched Kill Bill Volume 1. Heavy spoilers came out with the breakdown of Kill Bill Volume 2, so we're about to do that this week, and a bunch of other good stuff. Become a member, join the Discord. Let's do it, guys. Once again, that is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.